that our oil industry has not been properly managed. If it's been properly managed, we will not be hearing this story that we have a private individual protecting pipelines. How come? And I keep going back to the issue, to the question, what happens to the Nigerian Navy? That is fit for purpose for this particular exercise. So there are the backseat. Now we have an individual. Of course, I'm not surprised that we are at this level, because at any opportunity, at any turn, you see him take pages of front page of newspapers that run into thousands, millions of naira, 25 million apiece on front pages of Nigerian newspapers to celebrate someone's birthday, the president's birthday, one governor's birthday, and all of that. So in the midst of this, it will be difficult for the judge to grant that ex parte motion, saying, I do agree with those people. And until we get to a point where we start doing the right things, we will keep running this circus show. We have a Nigerian Navy. It is the responsibility of the Nigerian Navy to ensure that our pipelines are protected, not private security agencies. That's it according to me. Now, let's move away from that and get into another very interesting story. Nigeria's federal government says electricity generation has climbed from 3,951 megawatts on March 28 to over 4,300 megawatts by April 10, attributing the improvement to a boost in gas supplies to thermal plants, which rose from 605 million to 704 million standard cubic feet per day. According to Bolaji Tunji, spokesperson for the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, the rise reflects efforts to stabilize supply, with mechanical availability peaking at 7,796 megawatts and operational availability improving to 4,694 megawatts. Adelabu has also inaugurated a gas-to-power monitoring committee to tackle bottlenecks and ensure steady supply, while urging the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, to expand meter testing centers and train more installers to bridge the metering gap. Despite the upbeat figures, Nigerians remain skeptical, pointing to frequent grid collapses and erratic distribution that often leaves homes and businesses in darkness. Analysts warn that without sustained investment in infrastructure, transparency in gas delivery, and stronger coordination among stakeholders, the current gains may prove temporary. The current gains, do we even have gains? Do we even have gains in the oil, in the power sector? We are grappling. I mean, it's even surprising and curious that we have a power minister who is thumping his chest that we moved from 3,900 to 4,300. At this stage, at this age and time in our national life, 66 years of independence at last count, 230 million people serve with only 3,400 megawatts. It's a shame and it's an embarrassment. Because we talk about countries, smaller countries in terms of population. A country like South Africa does in excess of 50,000 megawatts. How about Egypt? How about Vietnam? How about Mauritius? Small countries. How about our neighboring countries that we even supply power? Yet they have the capacity to take whatever we give them. Here, we are talking about grid collapse. We are talking about metering, estimated bills and all of that. The problem in the power sector is so humongous that Nigerians don't even know where to start. We are banded, band A, band B, band C, and all of that. And anytime there's a flicker of hope, one step forward, 5 steps backward. That is what we have in the power sector. And I think there's a certain 6.8 trillion naira that is owed to GENCOs. How did you come to that level, to that amount of money? GENCOs, when they produce and sell to TSN, doesn't TSN pay? I understand that all of those is coming from subsidies. So if the government is subsidizing at this level, why didn't they pay up on time? That's the big question. And so we are grappling with a lot, and we are being told that foreign investors are coming into Nigeria. Yes, they are coming. And so when they come, what do? They come with their power plants. When I say power plants, I don't mean turbines. I mean coming with generating sets. There was a certain telco CEO that said, well, Nigeria is good business for me. Nigeria is big business for me. But I wish I was running just a telecommunications company. As a matter of fact, I am running 2 companies, one telco, one power generation. And when he was asked, he said, I have over 3,000 base stations across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And you know what? In each of those base stations, I have 2 standby big generators. Because anytime both of them go off, it technically means that people within that cell site will not have network. So I power them 24/7 every other day. So it would have been better for me if I was running just a telecoms company. And so when a big company like a telecom company makes this kind of revelation, what happens to the medium and small and medium scale enterprises? We have businesses close up. At last count, over 7,000 businesses closed up in the past 3 years or so because of lack of power. And government is saying we are giving out seed money, to people to start businesses without power, And we have a power minister who is proud to tell us that we have done 4,300 megawatts at this point. It's quite discouraging. And Nigerians are always interrogating this issue to the point that every Nigerian has become a local government of his own. He provides his own power. Water. He provides his own education, because many Nigerians go to private schools now, practically everything, private hospitals and all of that. And we have governments. We have had governments. It didn't start with this government. It has been all this way, for him. In the past 26 years 26 years, 27, 26. Yes, 27 years of this republic, of the Fourth Republic, we have been grappling with developmental issues, power, water, energy, oil, and all of that. It's quite discouraging. And the earlier we get past this sorry stage, the better for us. Unfortunately, I don't even know the kind of future we are building, because we have young children born in all parts of this country, who don't even have a future. And if these children don't have a future in the next 15, 16 years, I begin to imagine the kind of problem we will have at hand. Unfortunately, that is where we are. The problem is not alone. I moved from the oil sector and I'm now in the power sector. Who knows where next I will go to? Because in all sectors of our national life, we are grappling with one problem or the other. The Nigerians didn't sign up for that. At independence, we held promises, as the most populous African nation, the black nation in the world. Other parts of the world, other black nations looked up to us at that moment. But hey, we have become a disappointment, even in our economy. We moved between 2015 and 2023, we moved from number 1 in Africa to number 4. As of 2015, our economy was worth $500 billion. Now, where are we? Number 4, 247, overtaken by South Africa, Egypt, and which other country? I think Algeria, or on top of my head, I can't remember. But we are number 4 at the moment. Meanwhile, we are supposed giants of Africa, a sleeping giant, some may say. Good morning, Jane. Good to have you join us on VOP this morning.
I'm so happy to be here this morning. There was a bit of traffic on the road and some admirers were fighting. But I was just listening to your speech.
Really? Speech indeed.
It's speech because it's just a stark reality of who we've become. And it's also sad that day in, day out, we talk about the same thing and there seems to be no improvements. It's almost as though we are, sleeping back.
One step forward
and 100 steps backwards. In fact, the first banter, because I did hear your discussion, and it just occurred to me that Nigeria is such an irony, because why would we be spending so much money, paying the security outfit of an ex-militant?
Of an ex-militant. A fugitive who has been running away from the law.
Not even running away from, even though he's been running away from the law, he's still being celebrated. I recall his birthday late last year. Did you see what happened on the front pages
of
the newspapers? Why are we spending so much money paying an ex-militant to guard our oil pipelines? And when we have the Navy, we have the Air Force, we have the police,
we have the NCDC,
we have the Civil Defense Corps. So what really is happening?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And so when outsiders look at us and they say, well, Nigeria is a disgrace country,
and
say, they are insulting Nigeria and all of that. Yeah. And some people are not patriotic because they are not protecting Nigeria. How do you tell yourself lies?
How do you even defend such a country?
How do you defend such a country?
It's so sad. From the power sector to the oil sector. What else? Politics? Is it insecurity?
Is it insecurity? Is it education? Is it health?
Honestly.
Is it solid minerals? Is it policing or what?
Is it manufacturing sector? What really
Where have we gotten it right?
Just
one sector.
Nothing is really working.
Nothing is really working in Nigeria.
Nothing.
But when you say all of these things, now people come across as, well, you are bashing Nigeria. You're not bashing Nigeria. We are telling ourselves our reality. And until we begin to tell ourselves the honest truth, we will not move beyond this sorry pass,
Yeah.
that we have become.
Yeah.
It's quite unfortunate. Like
And
I
it's
told you.
and it's so hard to wake up and be optimistic every day as a Nigerian. It's so difficult.
And no, the optimism keeps fading with each passing day.
Yes.
With each passing day.
Yes.
It's quite unfortunate. And I don't know. And we have a government. And in all of this government is bent on politics more than development.
Yeah.
Since the APC got into office in 2023, the only thing they have done is how do we come back in 2027?
Yeah.
Scores of Nigerians are killed. In
Being
fact, one
killed.
of our major topics is that overnight, the other night, I think that was on Sunday night, there was an ambush and a colonel of the
Was
Nigerian
killed.
army was killed.
Yeah, I saw it.
A colonel, and that is number 6 in the past 10 days.
Yes.
Senior officer, we are not talking about rank.
That made to the news, or that made it
That
to the
to the news. We are not
Yeah.
talking about ranks.
Yes.
We are talking about senior officers.
Yes.
6 within 10 days.
Yeah.
Killed, slaughtered.
Yeah.
In cold blood in Nigeria. And what we get, these people tell us, hey, these people are our brothers, they are prodigal sons and all of that. So, and under such conditions, how do you feel Nigeria?
It's really bad.
How do you feel Nigeria?
It's really bad. I don't know which one even hurts me the most. If it's the insecurity, is it the power sector, is it the oil sector? Is
It's
it
a complex web. It's a complex
in
web.
short, right now, I even feel for the president because he's obviously incapacitated.
I think he's overwhelmed.
He's overwhelmed.
He's overwhelmed.
It's very easy to be on the outside and criticize.
Yes.
You recall all his tweets at the heat of Jonathan's
administration.
you see how he said, if you cannot secure the lives of Nigerians, step down.
I mean, the buck stops at a table. If you can't
down.
give us power, step out and all of that.
And then he came in.
He's done 3 years.
He came in, and the first 6 months, he couldn't even set up a cabinet.
A cabinet.
And even when they set up the cabinet, they were literally just, begging the question. You could see that they had no
hogwash.
Yeah, you could see they had no direction. And now, 2027, that's the next big thing.
That's the next big thing.
Whether we like it or not, that's what's on the front burner. And it's just so sad.
So sad indeed.
so sad.
Anyway, let's move on to the next banter.
Okay. The Kaduna State High Court has adjourned ruling on the bail application of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai after prosecutors amended charges, leaving him as the sole defendant in a corruption-related case. El-Rufai's legal team insists they need time to study the fresh charges before substantive hearing resumes. With the court set to rule on bail on Tuesday, that's today, April 14th. Meanwhile, in Delta State, the former governor, Ifeanyi Okowa, declared his intention to contest the Delta North senatorial seats in the 2027 elections under the APC, publicly apologizing to his Anioma constituents for what he called a mistake in backing current Senator Ned Nwoko. Okowa's announcement in Asaba was met with unanimous endorsement from political leaders across Delta North, who hailed him as a seasoned administrator and consensus builder. This is a case of the godfather turning against the godson. But we also know that Senator Ned is not a newbie in the political scene.
He's not a pushover.
He's not a pushover, actually, that's the word. But because Okowa has moved to the APC, I don't know how much stronghold the APC has in Delta State, but that's a huge, that's a loud statement, and it's going to unsettle the state policy. Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah.
I think the point here is that what is going on in Delta State is what we see in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
But I've just been thinking, Anioma State. Now, Ned
is pushing for
an Anioma State,
yes.
And he wants to be governor.
Yes.
Now, Ifeanyi Okowa has been governor of Delta State.
Yes.
Now, there's a conundrum there. Okay. If Anioma State is created, can Ifeanyi aspire to be governor? Because that's a new state.
Does it, and I think the Anioma State is he's been passed, right?
No, it's not been passed, but
it's still
Akpabio has promised that it will be created.
To give him.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We need legal experts, to help us untie that knot.
Yeah.
Okowa has been governor of Delta State.
Yes.
And so when Anioma is created, it will become Anioma and New Delta.
Oh, okay.
Or Delta State. Okay. Now, he will not be from Delta State again. He will be from Anioma State.
So can he
contest again to become governor
under
of
the Anioma State?
The constitution is probably silent on that.
Honestly.
And so what they are struggling for now is this control of the soul of the yet to be created Anioma State. Now, Ned both of them are in the APC.
Yes.
Ned is in APC, And
Ned has moved to the APC, not PDP again.
Ned left. I'm sure Ned has been in the APC.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Ned has been. He said he moved to the APC because they promised him that they were going to give Anioma State to him.
Okay.
That was the reason he gave that time.
Okay.
Shortly after Okowa moved from PDP.
Okay.
You know, we all know why Okowa moved at that point.
Yeah.
But in all of this, the problem that is brewing in Rivers, in Delta State, you know, is not strange. It's not new. It's happening in almost all other states where people have
season of defection.
Season of defection, and people are saying that APC might just implode because you have a lot of big wigs in that party struggling for
too many
place.
vested interests.
Too many vested interests, you know, struggling for space within that little space. Only one person can be senator at a time.
At the end
Only
of the
one
day.
person can be governor at a time. Only one person can be member of House of Reps at a time in that particular constituency. So we see a lot of
heavy.
Yes, it's too top. It's too top heavy, and we'll see a lot of infighting in 2027. But we hear that the president is a master strategist and he's a consensus builder, just like they say Okowa himself is a consensus builder. Okay. So let us see how much of that consensus
and how it will play out.
It will play out in 2027 and beyond. Now that's how far we can go on the banter. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll run to the papers to give you newspaper headlines. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for where to buy quality and original studio and musical equipment in Nigeria? Welcome to Iruka Online, Nigeria's biggest musical and sound equipment warehouse. Your trusted home for top global brands, reliable low-price alternatives, and 100% original musical accessories. With over 16 locations nationwide and open 7 days a week, we deliver unbeatable service and customer support you can count on. Shop online at iruka.com in partnership with world-renowned brands like Wolfdale Pro, Prisoners, Twile Keyboards, Fender and Jackson Guitars, Marshall Amplification, Mapex Acoustic Drum Set, Tech Electronic Drums and Accessories, Evans Drumheads, Ashdown Engineering, and many more. Iruka Online, powering your sound with quality you can trust.
Now let's quickly run to the dailies and give you headlines on what is happening in the papers. We'll start with the Daily Sun. Beside the nameplate, Wike, I never denied ADC others use of Ego Square. Faction sacks Atiku, Babachi in Adamawa. Now this is getting quite interesting. A certain faction has expelled Atiku Abubakar from the ADC.
From the ADC.
From his home states. From his states, yes. Group jumps 8% on ceasefire collapse. Marketers more high. OPEC cuts output by 500,000 barrels per day. Now the big story, outrage over murder of Colonel, 6 soldiers in fresh terrorist raids. With the riders, Mopol, 9 others killed in renewed attacks in Benue State. Wow. Quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'll soon decide on Abia Goba contest, says Reps Deputy Speaker, that's Ben Carlo. IMF wants Nigeria, orders against policy missteps, says Middle East crisis has pushed nations into survival mode. Sharia Council insists on resignation of INEC chairman. Ndume cries out, I'll take that again for clarity. Ndume cries out over escalating insecurity in the Borno State, and that's it from the Daily Sun newspaper.
Let's check out the front page of the Daily Trust. Against odds, ADC holds convention. Tariff cut on vehicles, rice could weaken local production, experts. Court to rule on El Rufai's bail application today. Daily Trust apologizes over wrong use of pictures. Again, commander, soldiers killed in Boko Haram ambush. ACO leaders visit Gombe governor, declare support for Tinubu's second term, back Yamaltu and Deba Senate aspiration. Those are the stories on the Daily Trust.
And that's how far we can go on the super headlines this morning. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, Colonel, dozens of soldiers killed in Borno in Boko Haram ambush as terror attacks spread to Zamfara. Please do join us again. We'll be right back.
news on the street
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city. The loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's law.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents,
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
The like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
On Edu Dialogue, we bring you fresh ideas and conversations shaping the future of learning in Nigeria and beyond.
In a world where power shifts with every headline.
In a nation full of questions.
In a world filled with noise, the truth needs the voice.
The policies that shapes our world and the economy that determines our future.
Every hour, every day, the grapevine keeps buzzing. And together, we are committed to telling the stories that shape our world because your voice is our focus.
Don't forget, our voice matters the most. Let us come together and share our concerns.
Warehouse, your trusted home for top global brands, reliable low price alternatives, and 100% original musical accessories. With over 60 locations nationwide and open 7 days a week, we deliver unbeatable service and customer support you can count on. Shop online at iruka.com in partnership with world-renowned brands like Wolfdale Pro, Prisoners, Twile Keyboards, Fender and Jackson Guitars, Marshall Amplification, Mapex Acoustic Drum Set, Tech Electronic Drums and Accessories, Evans Drumheads, Ashdown Engineering, and many more. Iruka Online, powering your sound with quality you can trust.
Welcome to the Locker Room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Arpelhon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu admire us as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening in the football. Don't just watch football, live it with us. Catch us on the Locker Room and Voice of the People celebration at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And like I always say, if not 20 minutes off, please discuss.
And it's Hakim Ziyech who puts the
Some People's Voice, where we amplify the voice of those that matters the most. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts with me. I am Xavier Udo. Weekdays, Monday through Friday, from 4 p.m. to 5. Don't forget, our voice matters the most. Let us come together and share our concerns.
Welcome to Romeo Pizza.
Welcome back and good to have you join us on VOP this morning. Nigeria's military has been dealt another devastating blow as Boko Haram insurgents launched a deadly raid on a military base in Borno State, killing a commanding officer, Colonel A.O. Lawal, alongside at least 6 soldiers, with reports suggesting casualties may be higher. The Nigerian army confirmed the attack, describing it as a fierce encounter in which troops fought valiantly before being overwhelmed. Just last week, the defense headquarters had confirmed the deaths of several soldiers in another terrorist assault in the same region, underscoring the relentless pressure on security forces battling insurgency in the northeast. The violence is not confined to Borno. In Zamfara State, fresh waves of terror attacks have intensified, with armed groups raiding communities, burning homes, and abducting villagers, sparking widespread fear and displacement. While security experts wonder the simultaneous escalation in the northeast and the northwest signals dangerous expansion of insurgent and bandit activities, threatening national stability. Well, we have in the studio here in Lagos, where we are broadcasting from, to help us make sense of this development, this very sad development, is Prince Francis Chilaka. He's a political and public affairs analyst. Beside him, we also have Mr. Elvis Ehime Hele. Elvis is a political and public affairs analyst. And from our Benin outstation, we've been joined by Mr. Frank Ehiosu. Frank is also a political and public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on VOP this morning. We appreciate your presence as always.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, Prince, good to have you. Now, Prince Francis Chilaka, let me start with you. Colonel killed 6 soldiers. That's the 6th senior officer killed by terrorists in the last 10 days in Nigeria. When we see a situation where terrorists whose mainstay, soft targets, marketplaces, schools and all of that, leave those bases and now get into military bases to attack, abduct and kill our soldiers, where are we headed to, Prince?
I think it was about 2 weeks ago when the chief of army staff, if I'm correct, came out and said that the bandits,
Chief of Defense,
the bandits, whatever name you want to call them, they likened them to prodigal son.
Our brothers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about brothers because they are not our brothers.
No,
but
he
likened them to the prodigal child.
Okay.
But then he forgot that there's something about the prodigal child. The prodigal child took what was his inheritance, his own share of the inheritance, and went a party. But here we're talking about people who are taking what does not belong to them by force. So apart from taking what does not belong to them by force, they kill anybody that stands on their way. So the message should have been, take them out. Because there's no way you can enter into any form of arrangement with this set of human beings. Whether we like it or not, what we have going on is a guerrilla warfare. We must be honest with ourselves. It's a guerrilla warfare. And what happens in a guerrilla warfare is that, first of all, take out the commanders. When you take out the commanders, the troop is left vacant. Then you begin to decimate the troops. When you finish with the troops, who do you now go for? The people.
Muslim people.
And that is where we're headed to. It is high time we cut the cancer from the origin. I like what the Minister of Defense said, but it's not just by saying it. We want action. Anybody, any Nigerian who comes out to speak in favor or to support what these guys are doing should be arrested. That should be a starting point. Because what we have now has gone beyond the military. It is dragging the citizens into it. And the only way the citizens can help the military to survive is that anybody, no matter who that person is, that comes on air and begin to support the actions of these terrorists should be arrested and dealt with.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prince.
I believe that it is high time Mr. President himself also should look into his cabinet. The Minister of Defense, Minister of State for Defense should be let go. Let us know where the mole is. Because the way these guys are acting, their precision is top-notch. I just don't think they're ragtag anymore.
Do you think that the problem of capacity, when you talk about, having to look into, his cabinet, do you think that the problem is that of lack of capacity or lack of intentionality?
For me, it is lack of the will to do the right thing. If you heard what that 16-year-old boy was saying on, where do you think these guys are getting their intel from? Are they spirits? They are not spirits. There must be somebody who is behind the scene perpetrating this evil. Okay,
now there's a lot to talk about in this very issue. Elvis, let me come to you.
Yes.
Let's begin to interrogate the reason, the threat for all of this. Why? Because we make some clarifications between terrorism and insurgency. When you say that these people are insurgents, apparently the technical definition is that, they want to run out the government and take over government. But they might apply the tactic or the tool of terrorism, which is, to disorganize the government, hit soft targets, critical national infrastructure, and all of that. In all of this, do you think that the people because I'm asking this question because the prince said, we are immersed in a guerrilla warfare. Do you think that it will get to a point that their target might be, to get to Abuja, run out the presidency and take over? Is that what we are dealing with?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what we are dealing with.
But there were some hits in Abuja before now. The UN building. Yeah. And so many people died. Remember?
Okay.
That was seat of power. You also remember that during Buhari's administration, even what they call them now, Brigade of Guards, that went to the law school when Abuja Law School was being threatened. You remember that some of them lost their lives when they were coming back? You also remember that even during Buhari's time, his convoy, pilot convoy, was attacked in Katsina State, and some Nigerian army lost their lives. So if these people can be this brazenly close to the seat of power, what will stop them from overrunning the seat of power and taking over? Is it not what happened in Afghanistan? It's what happened in Afghanistan after the US army left. Within 1 week, they overran the country and the Taliban took over the government. So what are we talking about? Taliban, Boko Haram, ISWAP, they are brothers and sisters. Their aim is that we want to take over the government. So, but Prince says something that I know too well, that if we must have to fight these insurgents, we have to look inward. We have been talking about financiers.
Okay.
Yes, the government, and he made mention that the government must be able to stand its ground. Very correct. But Mr. Koro, the biggest of all is that these people hit targets precisely and get what they are looking for.
Precision and accuracy.
Accuracy, 100%. Do you know how that happens? Because they have moles within the armed forces. Listen, they said when Brigadier General Brimo was killed, just like a week ago, they said they came around 12:30 a.m. And they said they came from different directions at the same time. These ones cannot just be planned by this ragtag. like that 15 years old boy we saw. There are people who plan this thing for them. There are people who are within the armed forces that give them this. This is the number of personnel we have. This is the strength of our arms and ammunition. And these are the locations. This is the time our gas are like loose, kind of. We saw this in 1987 in the old Bender State, when Anini was terrorizing the old Bender State and his gang. Anini was not a spirit. Anini was not too powerful. The only success Anini was recording was just because Anini had an insider who happened to be DSP George Yamu. George Yamu was the Supro in terms of operation. So when Anini plans operation, George Yamu tells him, don't go to that direction.
Go this direction.
Go this direction. I will not send my boys to your direction. He goes to bank, terrorize banks, hit his target, and come back successfully.
Clinical finish.
Seriously, cleanly. He was doing this the whole of Bender State then. He got to the Supreme Military Council, Armed Forces Ruling Council, IBB, and started asking the IG, where is Anini? What now happened? IBB said, DIG Omeben, you are from Bender State. Go and arrest your brother and bring. Omeben got there, and Omeben's driver was killed. It was God that saved Omeben. Kasmi Akagbosun, who was the commissioner of police in Bender State then, was shot in a very popular place, Ring Road in Benin. Until DIG Osayende, Pari Osayende, was brought in. Go and rescue this mission. What happened? He called elders and said, this is my challenge. I'm sent here. Until the Northerners know that this is their own fight. What now happened? Now discovered that the Mo who was actually leaking all the information to Anini
is actually the man.
Is the man that was sitting at the head of the operation. George Yamu. When George Yamu was arrested, Anini now became blind.
Wow.
His movement was easy for the police to pick. Not until the Nigerian Armed Forces stopped this idea of, they have been they are our brothers, so we have integrated them, we have rehabilitated them. This war will not stop.
All right, then.
These so-called rehabilitated and integrated are still the ones that are leaking out these things to these guys in the creek, in the bush.
Quite an analogy, Mr. Elvis, I must say, and I appreciate your take on this. Now, let's quickly run to Benin City, where we have Mr. Frank Ehios who join us. Good morning to you, Mr. Frank Ehios, and thanks for being part of this program. I need for you to unmute your device so that we can have your audio feed. Hello, Frank, can you hear me? Hello, Frank, can you hear me? All right, well, let's get that fixed and we'll go back to him. In the meantime, let's remain in the studio here. Now, Prince, you talked about cutting off the source, of these things. On Saturday, over the weekend, we had the government release 48 names of terror sponsors. Have you seen that list?
I've seen the list, and
how do you react to that?
And it's a very shameful list, because you're releasing a list of people we don't know, no pictures, and nothing. It's like you're just like saying, let us satisfy these people. Questions have been asked. People are agitated, so let us give them names. Why is it that the government said they have tried 300 and something, convicted 300 and something? Who are they? Where are their pictures? Don't you and I have a right to know who they are? When they arrest people and they call them ESN and IPOP, they put their pictures. They put their pictures for everybody to know who they are. So why are we covering the picture? Why are we covering the faces of these so-called Boko Haram and insurgents? I want to know who they are. So that if I see somebody that looks like them, I'll run for my life.
No, so you don't believe that those names are real, or that?
Who are they to start with?
So who were you? What kind of names were you expecting to see on that list?
I was expecting to see the names of real Nigerians.
I bet those are Nigerians.
Real sponsors.
Do you know them?
Real sponsors.
Do you know them?
Over time, fingers have been pointed at certain people.
Okay.
And the government has turned a blind eye.
Are you talking about sympathizers or?
Well, if you're sympathizing a criminal, then you're a criminal.
We're talking about financiers now. Financiers, not
people who throw in money, big money.
You see, it is the same people who finance and are the same ones who pity them. They're the same ones who show them love. You see, this fight is not a fight for us to sit here and begin to find, okay, it is this. But no, this thing has gone beyond that. As a Nigerian, I wake up every day and the first news you see is where a village has been ransacked. Women have been kidnapped. People have been killed. You saw a video that was trending a few days ago. 400 people, women and children. You think it is funny? We sit here, we're saying, oh, it is the white, it is the north, it is no longer the issue of the north. It is not an issue of the Nigerian people. Because like play, this thing will move from the north to the east to the west. Kwara State is not safe. Ondo State is not safe. The other day you heard what happened in Ebonyi State. And we think it's a child's, it is no longer a child's play.
I do appreciate your passion, Prince. Honestly, Nigeria is a very scary place to live in now. Well, I understand we've been able to re-establish connection with Mr. Frank here. So Frank, can you hear me now? Good morning and thanks for joining us.
I can hear you very loud.
Oh,
very,
beautiful,
very well.
beautiful. Good to have you join us. Now, I understand that you have followed.
Unfortunately, I don't have the capacity to mute from the headquarters there, I guess.
Can you come again? Hello, Frank, what did you say?
I'm at the mercy of those operating the system over there.
Anyway, it's about tech. It's all about tech. Nobody is trying to do anything funny. It's all about tech. But I do appreciate your presence. Now, let's quickly run into it. How do you react to the fact that, well, in the past 10 days, we have 6 senior officers. I'm talking about commission officers, senior ones, rank of colonel, brigadier, and all of that, killed by terrorists in Nigeria. More like the Northeast and the Northwest have become theaters of war. We're not talking about the rank and file in their numbers, 12, 22, the other time, and all of that. How do you react to the situation? Are we in a full-blown war situation? Honestly, let's have your broad reaction to these developments.
My reaction is not different from what I've affirmed the opt-in time. They say the way you lay your bed, so you lie on it. Nigeria as a country, unfortunately, is an unserious nation state. And what has happened in the past 10 days is an indicator of worse things that lie ahead. I don't know why it's coming as a surprise. You don't need any peculiar training. You don't need to be an expert in matters of security to go across different parts of this country and just know that there is no modicum of preparedness that is normally required in a functional nation state for any sort of evils or security challenges. I have said it before on this, that as we are having discussions, that these bandits or terrorists or whatever name they are called, they can choose to strike in 100 locations at the same time. And the Nigerian state will appear handicapped. Rather, what we have is a government that comes to give assurances on and on and on that seem not to have any impact. Where we now have a commander-in-chief that seems to be an expert in condolence messages to the people being killed, on and on. Now, what makes this more painful, like you just mentioned concerning the one that's happened in the past 10 days, is that these bandits are not going to attack civilians. They are not just going to attack communities. They are going to run down brigade commands in military. A brigade command is about the foremost unit that stands for a front in terms of fighting against, as in onslaughts from invading nations or whatever it is that pertains to what infringes upon the sovereignty of a nation state. If bandits can peacefully, I use that term with emphasis, overrun a whole brigade command of a nation state, of the army of the most populous black nation in the world. They will operate for 2-3 hours successfully, run down a brigade command, repeat the same feat in a matter of days, on and on. And you think we have a nation? See my pain. My pain is that I asked myself, if I were a soldier, will I shoot a bullet for this country? I've said this for a very long time, that Nigeria does not display the requisite discipline that is required for nationhood. Unfortunately, it has permitted the military, just like it has affected every sphere of our existence as a country. Now, you don't need to be a military expert to know basics, like force security, operational security. I was just wondering, where was that relegated to in the strategy book of Nigerian military? Because I was in primary school when I started reading military magazines. There was no internet. I had some uncles that used to send me magazines from the US and from Europe. And from that time, you get conversant with some basics in military operations. Way back 80s or even earlier. And right now, in the 21st century, you have the military of the largest black nation of the world sending troops to harm's way, no strategy in force security, no enforcement of operational security. Bandits could operate for 3 hours successfully, kill generals, and there's no response. God, how do you explain it? See, it is painful that our soldiers are being sent to such shameful deaths in the hands of ragtag and bandits. It pains me so much,
Frank,
because I believe very strongly that our people can do better. But because there is lack of accountability,
Frank,
there is impunity in the chain of command.
Frank,
And
do
the
you
president
think,
gives excuse for them. He says,
Frank, may I just cut you in here briefly? Do you think it's an issue of accountability or complicity? Because here in the studios, we are talking about the fact that there's intelligence breakdown. There are moles in the military. Or don't you think that that's a big hindrance? Because, I mean, for instance, Borno has been a stronghold for Boko Haram and all this insurgency for over 10 years. How is it possible that we are still losing a whole battalion? We are still losing troops. Is it that the military cannot use maybe drones or technology? Is it that they are incapacitated? Is it that the insurgents are like years ahead? What exactly is the issue? Because we can keep talking about all of this, profess solutions, but if the major issue that is confronting us, which is moles, complicity from within, how do we move forward? How do we move forward from here, really?
See, on the issue of moles and complicity, that is secondary to the issue of accountability and impunity.
Okay.
A gun has been jumped already. In a military, not just military, in any system where there's impunity, where there's unaccountability, obviously there's lack of discipline. That is what gives room for complicity to thrive. That is what gives room for most to play their card very successfully. That is the truth. So the issue of most and complicity is even not just secondary, it's a tertiary issue. The core issue is the fact that the military, just like the nation state at large, has lost her bearing in terms of the requisite discipline that makes for survivability, that makes for a functional system. That is the truth.
Okay.
So
all right.
I am telling you now that for the past 1 year and some months or about 2 years, is it not in the news that these bandits now use drones to do survey? In fact, they have more information about our military than our military has about them. My point is that Nigeria is like a disgrace in the Committee of Nations.
Nigeria is like a disgrace in the Committee of Nations. All right, then.
It's
thank you very much.
Actually, we're a disgrace right there in the Committee of Nations.
Okay. I think at some point we heard President Trump say that Nigeria is a disgraced nation, and we started battling with him here, whether we are disgraced or not. I do appreciate your take on this matter, and I would like for you to stay with us because we'll come back to you in the course of the show so that we can get your concluding thought on this. In the meantime, let's quickly run to Anambra State, OCAP to be precise, where we have been joined by Dr. Dennis Ekemeze. He's here in the capacity of for public affairs analyst. Good morning, Dr. Ekemeze, and thanks for joining us on VOP this morning. Can you hear me, sir? I need for you to unmute your device so that I can get your audio feed. Can you hear me? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I can hear
I'm hearing you.
I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for joining us, sir. Now, I know you have followed this conversation. Now, the girl from Benin City, we have been having a discussion here. We are talking about lack of preparedness, and is it lack of preparedness that is really the issue? Or is it lack of equipment? Or is it sabotage and complicity on the part of the Nigerian military? While you answer that, I would like to have your reaction basically on the issue itself. 6 senior officers killed in the past 10 days. And you are there in the Southeast. I would like for you also to tell us the presence of the military in the Southeast. How many road points, checkpoints do you still have? If you can give us the number, if you can give us statistics. Are there still roadblocks manned by the military in the Southeast? And what is the level of insecurity that warrants keeping those numbers of soldiers in the Southeast, where we have, as a matter of fact, theaters of war in the Northeast and in the Northwest? I'd like for you, I've asked like 3 or 4 questions. Now, I hope you'll be able to put all of them together and let us get some context to everything that you understand.
And which one comes first? Well, let's first checkpoints.
Okay.
There's we have enormous a number of roadblocks in the Southeast. From Onitsha to Enugu, you have about not less than 15 checkpoints in various, either at the express or at the what we call the old road. And if you are traveling from Aba to Oka, I don't think you will be able to account for the number of police posts or checkpoints. And the question whether the military are with them, they are. And my question is, have they replaced the toll gate? I know why I asked this question. Because you must give something before you pass. Even to the extent that we are change will be given to you. So it's another industrial development for that set of people.
Now, the other side, Dr. Kemezi, I'm sorry to butt in at this point. I'd like for you to tell our viewers, what is the level of alertness? What is the level of insecurity that warrants keeping those checkpoints in the Southeast? How often do you have?
I think it's minimized. It's minimized. As I said earlier, the control of security during the Christmas season has been sustained. But you cannot easily remove the people operating as security agents or road maintenance officers because of the lucrativeness of the business.
Okay. All right. Let's leave the Southeast. Let's leave the Southeast and have you react to the development in Borno State, where in the past 10 days we have had 6 of our gallant soldiers, come under the knife of, in fact, under the bullets of terrorists and insurgents.
Very painful. Some of us that were in Sierra Leone or in Liberia during their war, or even the Nigerian Civil War, I don't think it has escalated to this level of destroying our well-trained manpower. Of course, Nigeria, under the leadership of ECOMOG, we were able to quell the insurgency in Sierra Leone and Liberia. And in Nigeria, especially in the Northeast, is becoming an impossible task. And I think my observation is that we are being reactive instead of being proactive. And you will recall that I once said that the insurgency has taken a dimension of guerrilla warfare. And such guerrilla warfare has been aggravated by the Boko Haram using technology more than our military men. Of course, recently, you know that they said even the drones they use would even contain weapons. So either that our military personnel are insufficiently equipped, or they have not adopted to modern military tactics, especially
so you think it's an issue of lack of preparedness? So you think it's an issue of lack of preparedness on the part of the Nigerian army or Nigerian military?
Well, yeah, whether it's preparedness or being proactive, not being proactive, I think they are now being reactive, waiting for them to come, and then they will fight instead of attacking them. They ought to have been more militant, more combative than they are now. I think that's the issue. Whether they are prepared or not, when we are young, we are trained as scouts to be always prepared. As a military, as disciplined people, they ought to be prepared. I think part of it also, so there's a sabotage in the system. Information is given out, and by the time you know it, they will be circled, and then it's a very pathetic story.
Very pathetic indeed. Very pathetic.
If you try to analyze it, it's painful.
Very painful.
Very, very painful.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
We are recruiting radicalized, what do you call it, insurgents into the system. And what do you expect?
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr.
They
will come back to you in the course of the show. We'd like for you to stay with us. Now, let's quickly run to Benin and get Frank Ehesu's concluding thought on this matter. Frank, as you conclude, I'd like to ask you, they said that men, history repeats itself because men don't learn from history. I mean, like how many years ago, about 10 years ago, we saw all of this, how pressure was put on the government of Goodluck Jonathan, and we understand that, there was spike in insecurity, Chibok girls kidnapping, people were killed here and there. Do you see a replay of 2014, 2015 in this situation? Because all of a sudden we see a spike, into the terrorism, number of killings and all of that, especially going into an election year in 2027. Are you able to, is there a nexus between what happened then and now? How do you see that?
What I see is beyond a nexus. It's not only a replay of what happened in 2014 or 2015 as the case may apply. It is an expansion of what has been sold for so long a time. So what is happening right now is much more complex. They are more empowered. Just for the sake of reference, they did Boko Haram when they started in the early 2000s. Government played politics with it from the time of Obasanjo until they blew out of proportion under Jonathan in 2011. And today it has become the hydra-headed monster that the government doesn't seem to have the capacity to deal with. Something must be established as we go on this line of discourse. Are soldiers being sent and handling such issues? First of all, is an indicator of the fact that the system has failed. Because the bulk of what pertains to security should have been handled primarily if we had a functional policing system. But because we don't have a functional policing system, the Nigerian army that's supposed to be our last line of defense is now the Nigerian police, unfortunately. Like the great discussant said just now, the number of checkpoints in the east, military checkpoints, not even police checkpoints. So Nigeria is going further down the brink. It is unfortunate. But like I said before, things don't change on their own. Due action taking is what will bring about change. What is government if it is not in charge? Because what this thing is sending a signal across our neighbors and nations in the world is that Nigerian government is not in charge. Because if a government is in charge, you must be in charge of your land space, your sea space, and your air space.
Okay.
And of late, equally, your cyberspace. Which space does Nigerian government control? Your discussion in the studio made reference to what happened in 2021. I was in Abuja when that incident happened. When bandits came to the federal capital territory, the seat of power, the president resides, and they operated successfully for more than 3 hours. More than 3 hours. They killed soldiers, they freed terrorists, and what have you from Yard in Kuje. More than 3 hours.
All right, then.
All right,
then, Frank. Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. Here, so we need to run into our next topic of discussion. I'd like for you to step back as we get into all of that. Let's return to the studio. The Prince, briefly. In 2014, we are trying to create some, compare notes, 14 and up until this exactly the point. Now, at that point, we had a national leader of a political party, the current ruling party now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then, not as president, just national leader. He said, hey, Mr. Jonathan, I mean, if you can't protect, the buck stops at your table. If you can't do this job, please get off. Get out of that seat. We have that same person on the seat now, and it looks like the problem is even compounded. If you see him one-on-one, what will you tell him?
Are you a football fan?
Sometimes.
You know that the best players are the people that are not on the field.
Oh, spectators.
Yes. When Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a spectator, he felt he was good. He felt he had the magic wand. He felt he had solution. Now he's wearing the shoes. First of all, he promised you electricity. He said, if I don't give you electricity after 6 months, when I come a second time, don't vote for me. But now he's using another tactics to campaign for votes. Insecurity, he said, oh, well, remember, I'm even talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Talk about Shetima. Shetima told us that he will be in charge of security, while Bola Ahmed Tinubu is in charge of economy. Since this administration came to power, have you heard anything from Shetima?
Did the president hand over security to him? Do you know?
It doesn't matter, but we like to pretend as if we don't know what is happening. He was the governor of Promotional State when insurgents was at its peak. Chibok girls. Up to today, one of them has not come back, so we are told. If he was not able to manage when he was a governor, do you think he will make any impact? Have you asked yourself why your Minister for Power has refused to resign and go and contest the election? Because he knows that he failed Nigerians as a minister. And he knows that the people of Oyo State will not vote for him. If I see Bola Ahmed Tinubu today, one-on-one, I'll tell him to resign. He doesn't have the capacity to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Prince. Elvis, the concluding thought on this matter.
Yeah, I want to remind our Vice President, Kassim Shettima, when he was governor of Promotional State, he protested to meet the president then, Muhammadu Buhari, and told Buhari that Nigerian armed forces are ill-equipped, that the insurgents are much more sophisticatedly equipped than Nigerian armed forces. Now he had the opportunity to become number 2 in this country. What has his government done so far to actually bridge that narrative he's pumped to his boss then? What have they done? The president. Now he's in the saddle. I think by now one would have been talking that, oh, what he said then, they've been able to at least live to the expectation. Because remember the problem called Brigadier General Adeniyi had when he said, give me ammunition to fight this insecurity. We can do it. What happened? He was court-martialed. And his boys. Remember, it was Femi Falana that bailed him out of that matter before his rank was restated and he was retired. So we are still within the same cul-de-sac.
We are still the same.
The same cul-de-sac of no arm equipment to fight this insurgent. The same cul-de-sac of our brothers, rehabilitate them and let them be living free life and become informants to their brothers right there in the bush. When are we going to deviate from that and face these people headlong?
I think I disagree with you on the issue of equipment.
Yeah.
The military has gotten enough money. The problem with the military when it comes to that is lack of accountability.
Enough money is different from having the equipment. We have heard that for the past 7 years or thereabout, military defense has always been carrying the highest chunk in the budget. Is it getting to the people that need it? We are told that, even though they are denying it, that Brahma was disappointed by the only APC in that attack, though they are denying it. Then I also read the piece that most of the equipment that they are even using are obsolete. These are equipment that we brought in.
All right then, gentlemen.
How do you face
okay,
this kind
all right.
of
We do appreciate your time and attention on this show, your presence. We'd like for you to stay with us as we get into our second topic of discussion. Nigerian Air Force bombs market in Northeast. Opposition says it is the 19th time under the All Progressives Congress, APC. Do join us again. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Romeo Pizza. Sink your teeth into our freshly baked pizzas. Loaded with rich sauce, melted cheese, and irresistible toppings. Where every bite is a love story. Treat yourself to our creamy, dreamy ice cream. Smooth, sweet, and made to brighten your day. Or maybe you want it hot and satisfying. Our juicy shawarma is wrapped to perfection, packed with flavor in every mouthful. Pizza, ice cream, shawarma. Why choose one when you can have it all? Romeo Pizza has exactly what your taste buds desire.
Are you ready for the extraordinary? Something big is happening on your screen.
Welcome back. You're still watching VOP this morning. Nigeria's military is facing mounting criticism after a Nigerian Air Force NAF strike reportedly hit a bustling market in the Northeast, leaving scores of civilians dead and injured. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State confirmed the incident, expressing deep sorrow and pledging government support for victims and their families, while calling for a thorough investigation. The tragedy has reignited debate over the military's role of engagement in counter-insurgency operations, with opposition parties and civil society groups condemning what they describe as a disturbing pattern of accidental bombings that have plagued communities across the region. According to the reports, this latest strike adds to at least 19 accidental bombings recorded under the APC-led government, fueling accusations of negligence and poor intelligence gathering. The ADC and other opposition voices have demanded accountability, insisting that repeated civilian casualties undermine trust in the armed forces and worsen the humanitarian crisis in the conflict zones. Elvis, let me take you up on this. When I read the full report from Amnesty, they said 4 jets, carried out this operation. How is it possible to precisely target insurgents in an area, a community that has a lot of, innocent people, civilians? How can you, precisely target them with 4 jets? Can we talk about that? And then maybe we've had 19 accidental bombings in under 4 years. What exactly is happening?
That night, yes, the accidental bombing is actually it's a very pathetic state, because we have seen it, repeating itself, and the Nigeria Air Force will come and tell us stories. So by now, one would have expected that at least there will be an end to such mistake, even if they call it mistake. But in this Gili matter, they have never said that those people that were bombed are not terrorists. They keep telling us that Gili, they trailed them to a certain level that they now discovered that they were like regrouping before they started releasing the bombs. That's what they have been saying. And even the governor of Borno State have actually said that market has been closed for the past 5 years, and they don't expect anybody to be there. But we are told that market has been like a center point where insurgents, terrorists comes to shop and go back.
They said they actually went there to get levies.
Levies from the people, and also shop and go back. It was because of the strategic position of that market and the usage of the market by the terrorists that led to the closure of the market for the past 5 years. Then the issue here now is, why were the people in that market that the government has closed? Then even the 15-year-old boy said when they finished striking at that Berishek that killed the brigadier general, they retreated back to Gili. which means this Gili is actually a hub for these terrorists. So the issue of rehabilitating and bringing the people back to life and say, okay, your sins have been forgotten, is it the same kind of people that were in this market? Because so what happened if the government said the market is closed? What were the people converging in that market to? Because they say it's not a daily market, it's just once in a while market. Okay. Why did they come to converge at that particular time? So when we are blaming the Air Force in this matter, we're also blaming the people, because this war, Jay, can't be fought by the military alone. The people must have to know that this is part of their own challenges and to be in support. If the government says, don't go to this area, why are you there? And now, these people now, the Air Force actually know now that this market is not supposed to be operational. And they said they were trailing them until they saw a crowd thinking that they were gathering before they started releasing bombs. Probably, again, I'll come back to the equipment. Is it that their navigational equipment is not as sharp as to actually know whether there are more women here and children and all that before they started releasing bombs? These are things that we should be looking at. We have to actually see that the government takes the responsibility of equipping our Nigerian armed forces as expected. Because this night go-go light that they use at night, do they have it? Because the Bamishek matter happened at night. The one that led to the death of this colonel again happened at night. Is it that the insurgents have this equipment that Nigerian armed forces don't have it to be able to confront them? So the Air Force spokesperson, Major Dame, has released statement that they never bombed people. They bombed insurgents. So let the investigation come out. But for me, the frequency is too much.
The frequency is too much. Now we have natives say, well, at last count, 56, that was 56 day before yesterday. Okay, yesterday 56. Yeah. But now I think the number has increased beyond 100 and all of that. Yeah. Now, Prince, we hear the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, professor, by the way, say, well, that market was closed 5 years ago. So those people, what were they doing there? Does it look like the governor is trying to justify the collateral damage, the Nigerian Air Force caused the Nigerian people?
In 2017, an IDP camp was bombed. And I think about 100 people, 100 people died. In 2023, a religious gathering was bombed. About 80 or so got killed. And what were the reasons for third? One, bad intel, wrong intel. Two, the fact that it is assumed that where too many people gather, they are all insurgents. Now, you talk about markets, and I'll give you a very simple analogy. Mr. Koro, they're in Lagos. If Adepo market is shut down today by the Lagos state government, do you think anybody will go and reopen it?
Adepo is in the city center.
No. Do you think anybody will go?
No, nobody will.
Good. Why? Because the government that shut us down must make sure that it remains what? Shut down. For Zulu to come out as a governor to tell Nigerians that the place that was bombed and has been tagged as a market was shut down by his administration 5 years ago is a failure. Honestly speaking, Zulum should resign as a governor of that state. It simply means he's not in control of the state. There is something he has already proven to Nigerians, whether we like it or not. He has proven to Nigerians the fact that, yes, the rumor we've been hearing that some states, some local governments within the state is controlled by insurgents and bandits. It's true. Because I don't see how a governor will shut down a market and you say you shut it down in the last 5 years and that market is still operational. That is not an excuse at all. I think the governor is just trying to find a soft landing for miscalculations, for lack of proper intel. If that market is operational and you claim that that is where bandits come to transact, in 5 years, nobody has been arrested from that market. In 5 years, You do not know who and who comes there to transact. We're not stupid. We're not daft in this country.
Nigerians are not stupid. They are not daft in this country. That's according to Prince Francis Chilaka. Now, let's go to Benin City, where we still have Mr. Frank Eheshu. Now, Frank, we hear from the African Democratic Congress, ADC, that the latest mishap, regarding the bombing of civilian casualties in parts of Borno State, in a marketplace, in parts of Borno called Jili, is the 19th time in the life of this administration. Are you able to confirm that for us? Are you aware? Have you followed through? Have you followed up to understand that this is the 19th time? And if it is, what speaks to that? Does it speak to negligence, or does it speak to lack of equipment, like these guests in the studio here said? Well, probably they didn't have night goggle vision equipment and all of that. What is it to you? Let us know. Let us into all that you understand.
Taking quite account of it, but I presume it could be more or less. In fact, it won't be more, because there are quite a number of such cases in the past. But on the issue of whether it's due to negligence or lack of equipment, I presume it could involve both factors. Negligence is key, no doubt. And lack of equipment could also be a factor. I heard when discussants in the country, I wish I could have access to ask the military and the government of the day the impact of the Tucano jet they spent billions of dollars on. This country will waste resources on frivolities while essentials are left unattended. I have said it over and again. Weapons don't fight. People do. When you have a military that has morale, you listen to stuff you hear on social media. First of all, let me tell you something shocking. Is it not amazing that Nigerian military seem to sustain a culture of underreporting the death of their soldiers and officers? I just wonder, I said, God, if the army is not proud of me as a member of that arm, that 20 soldiers will die, and the army will say there are 4 that died or 3 that died. Because they forget that we're in the social media age, not just social, digital age, where information cannot be kept from people. That is the truth. If we have this kind of age in the days of the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, I'm not sure any empire would have lasted up to 2 years. Because information right now travels at the speed of light.
Frank.
So I just wonder.
Mr. Frank.
Yes.
I heard the former Minister of Communications, Adebayo Shitu, on my show, Political Lens, the other time. And when I asked him about the insecurity and all of that, how he felt as a minister in government, under Buhari, when the news, made into cabinet where that Nigerians have been slaughtered. You know what he told me? He said, Nigeria paid money to the United States for equipment, and up until this moment, those equipment were not supplied. Who should take responsibility for that?
Nigerian government. It's like I tell you that I paid money to Toyota company to supply me some vehicles, and I'm putting the blame for my incapacity to drive to places because of Toyota. When you have Honda, you have Peugeot, you have hundreds of alternatives. See, these excuses are cheap. That stuff that guy said, unfortunately, does not even address a modicum of the issue. I said something just now, that there's something that the government has not realized. I hope the president wakes up to it very quickly. I used to make reference to what happened in Mosul in 2014 in Iraq. ISIS did not gain momentum because they had weapons. ISIS did not gain because they had special support or reach. ISIS gained momentum because Iraqi army lost morale. They felt they had nothing to fight for. That was where ISIS got weapons from that made them a threat to the world till today.
Now, Frank, still talking about weaponry. Still talking about weaponry. Yeah, still talking about weaponry. Are you aware, there's this information from the government, from government official sources, that those Tucano jets cannot be used. Why? For reasons that some of them were not actually fitted for combat. That is one. And two, that there were also restrictions placed on the Nigerian army by the United States of America that supplies the Tucano jets. Are you aware of that information?
Now, I'm sorry to say, but you can hear the silly excuses that they are putting forth. Who bought the equipment? Who signed those agreements? And that excuse does not fit in. I am aware of the restrictions. The restrictions is in areas maybe where there is peace and civilians may be affected. In this case, bandits are taking over military brigade commands. There's no restriction on using such weapons there. That is the truth. The point I highlighted is that the Nigerian army is spending money on weapons that may not be needed because that's the avenue for monies to be made for individual pockets. Go and check the budget. The Nigerian budget for security, in fact, the army budget last year is equivalent to the budget of the whole of the country during the time of Jonathan is last year as the president of the country. So if you look at the data, the more the increase in the budget for security, the more the increase in the expenses or expenditure for security, the more the increase in insecurity. Is that not a strange business that seems to be thriving? So there's no excuse for it. It's just a show of shame.
Show of shame. All right, then. Thank you very much.
Something else.
Okay, quickly.
Something else, please, that the government should be aware of.
Okay.
The war, from what is happening in the war between the US, Israel, and Iran, as well as Ukraine and Russia, even major powers have come to see that there's a very slim line between having major weapons and small weapons that have mass, especially with reference to drones and all whatnot. The Nigerian government should know that these bandits, in no time, will have such peculiar accesses. I hope they wake up before then. Not otherwise, that we say Nigeria is a failed state, maybe an old story.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. Here, so let's quickly run to Oka, where we still have Dr. Dennis Ekemeze. Now, Dr. Dennis, Mr. Ahios said something. He said the more money we get into the security system, the more insurgency, the more terrorism we get. How do you explain that? And again, I would like for you to add all of this. Now, we hear there's an ongoing debate, between the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian people. Now, the Air Force says, well, nobody was killed, but Nigerians have counted, at last count, as at yesterday, 56 people. And so how do you explain the fact that the Nigerian army said initially, well, we were trailing them, because they had gone to the market to collect levies. And so when they left, that was when we let off those bombs, unfortunately. So how easy it is, to track people who had gone to a market to collect levy, and all of a sudden they were leaving, and you were tracking them, and you let off bombs, and Nigerians were killed. How do you... Looks like there's some kind of, conflict in those comments. How do you react to that? Those two questions are quickly.
It's just like you trying to identify or to locate the salt you have already put in the soup. You can only know it by taste. Is that not true? I think it's a sharp analysis of situation. I would believe also that they were trailing them. Of course, it reminded me during the Civil War, when my town was bombed by the Biafran jet after the church. They said it was a miscalculation. So at times, it could be miscalculation. The radar may not be able to give enough information. And that's what we are dealing with, issue of surveillance and intelligence gathering. However, if the governor said that the market were closed, of course, you know that the market were closed in Anambra State and people didn't go. If the market was closed and the people were there, why wouldn't governor take action? So I'm trying to lay a foundation to be able to analyze the issue of collaboration. Is government overwhelmed? Is Professor Zuru overwhelmed? And that is the question. So he has answered the question. Issue of connivance, issue of negligence, issue of collaboration. Because it appears from what we are saying, our prodigal brothers. You see, some conversations we throw in Nigeria this time, we at times whittle what we are doing. So let us tie it down or tie it up that we need to reinvigorate our military tactics, our military conversation, so that we'll be able to give the members of the public the true position of things. I think that's the issue of intelligence gathering. And then we also need to look at accountability. Money approved, money released. Released to whom? Items purchased, items, of course, when you purchase item, you put the item to procure, the store, where it will be now taken out. So what happened? These are the things we with a valid answer or opinion on situation of the ground, because it's a critical situation.
Okay, very critical situation. Very critical situation. Thank you very much, Dr.
Demoralizing.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thanks for being
The governor has a question.
Now let's quickly run into our last topic of discussion this morning, and it's about party politics. Politics is the next big, in fact, is the biggest thing in Nigeria now. We're talking about ADC crisis because we hear that the ADC has a new venue for Tuesday's National Convention as court adjourns hearing. Please do join us again. We'll be right back. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, is engulfed in a storm of controversies as its planned national convention faces multiple hurdles. The party was denied access to both Eagle Square and the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja, forcing a last-minute relocation to the Rainbow Event Center in Abuja. But we hear now that, according to Bolaji Abdullahi, the national spokesperson of the ADC, that the Rainbow Event Center is under pressure from the FCT minister to cancel that event. Breaking news now. Meanwhile, tensions escalated as ADC caucus in the House of Reps demanded the immediate removal of prosecution of Joash Amopita, chairman of the INEC, accusing lawmakers of partisanship, and bias. Well, the lawmakers allege that Amopita's conduct does not reflect impartiality or neutrality, or has compromised his ability to conduct free, fair, and credible elections. Well, adding to the chaos, a federal high court adjourned judgment in a suit filed by ADC lawmaker Leke Ajibede against party leaders, including Mark Arebeshola, further stalling clarity on the party's internal disputes. Well, we still have our gentleman here with us. Prince, what's going on? The free space keeps shrinking every other day. At some point yesterday, Wike said, well, I didn't see any application to use the Eagle Square, and so I cannot approve based on nothing. Transcorp Hilton last week cancelled. Now, Rainbow Event Center granted them space, and Bolaji Abdullahi 2 hours ago came out and said, well, the event center is under pressure from the FCT minister to cancel. What is this all about?
It's about power tussle.
Power tussle?
Yes.
Or operation?
It's about power tussle. It's about ensuring that viable opposition parties do not see the light of day. That is the game plan of the APC. They want to make sure that viable parties do not see the light of day. But you see, for me, I know that we have in ADC, they have men of who think out of the box. If the worst comes to the worst, they'll do the convention on the street. They look for a close and do the convention. It will come to that. For you to be in opposition, you must be ready to dare the government in power. Unfortunately, Nigeria is a President Bola Tinubu who we all was said to have been acclaimed as a Democrat, is not showing us the tenets of democracy. Because, you know, in a multi-party state, now you have the Labour Party is gone. Because right now we don't even know who the leadership of the Labour Party is. The PDP has been decimated. The SDP, nobody's been talking about it.
It's intact.
Even ADC now, you know, INEC on his own woke up from slumber and decided on their own to create crisis in the party.
To create crisis. Are you aware that a certain faction in Adamawa State has expelled Atiku Abubakar from the ADC? Are you aware of that development?
We read it in the news, but we haven't heard anything other than that. But you see, what I want to say is this. I think that as it stands today, anybody who supports Joas Moputo to remain as INEC chairman is not somebody who loves democracy.
Why?
He has compromised. Everything about him is compromise.
Okay.
He has shown partisanship. He has shown biasness. Which he shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be. All right, then.
Talking about, let me just ask him this. Talking about Joash's appointment, you know, yesterday, Serap did say that as long as the responsibility of choosing an INEC chair is left to the presidency, then we may not really have a fair.
No, you see,
if we take him out,
who appoints? The thing is this: when you may, like in an organization like this, it may be the duty of the chairman to nominate. The president nominates a candidate and takes to the Council of State. What we're saying is that in that nomination, those who should speak out should ordinarily speak out. Unfortunately, people don't speak out anymore in this country. Those we refer to as elder statesmen, they are all they're not even speaking what you want to listen to.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Prince.
For me, I feel as a Nigerian, as I sit here today, I feel insulted that an aide of Mr. President will be the one to defend the INEC chairman. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Now Elvis, let's bring you in. How do you react to this development, especially what it is this is passing through? Look, sourcing for a venue. Meanwhile, we had a situation where the APC held its own convention, Eagle Square, and PDP held its own in the stadium. Now, ADC is having difficulties. First of all, Transcorp cancelled. Now we hear Rainbow Event Center, which they got less than 12 hours to the event time. Now struggling, to have space. How do you react to that briefly?
Mr. Koro, is very painful. Very, very painful that this is where we find ourselves. You see, when an elder sees something that is wrong and turn off his face to the other side, it develops to this level. Right from the day the president said subsidy is gone, and Nigerians laughed over it, and we began to look for alternative to be able to survive. That was the day we sold our right to this party and this administration. That is just it. So every other thing, we are saying is that, they can bear. We should pile more on them. They'll be able to overcome it. Let's begin to pile more. That's what we are saying. So what is happening there? The opposition have left this party, especially this APC administration, whether from Buhari's time to this very Tinubu's time, the opposition have left them so much to go away with whatever they come with. That's why we got this. If you go to the street to protest, they release their military armed forces. Then the next thing you hear, it's because it doesn't belong to your religion, it doesn't belong to your tribe. They have divided these people. The people can no longer breathe. People can no longer speak. They mount pressure on us so that by the time you are hungry, you cannot even remember them. You are running after how to keep your family.
How to pay your house rent.
Have you not seen the spike in the house rent in Lagos?
Everywhere, everywhere.
I mean, so they keep doing this. When I was coming to the studio this morning, I was listening to radio and I heard the inhalers. These guys are, means of survival just for them to be doing this business of inhaling business. Many of them have parked their cars. They cannot survive it. So these kind of people now don't have interest in what is going on again. Nigerians are in a frustrated.
But let me quickly ask before we move to Edo. With a lingering court crisis, still there, the lingering court cases to determine ADC's leadership, isn't this convention a big gamble?
Yes, you see, the ADC, I listened to them yesterday, they said they want to do it because the court case might either come in any form, may favor them, so that they will not begin to, because they could not conduct the convention, now they are favored by the court, and they'll still be at a stalemate. Everything.
Okay, so they are just taking a chance.
They are taking a chance.
All right,
the time is not favoring anybody.
It's not favorable.
It's not about taking a chance. Sorry, I need to say this. You need to understand that whether we like it or not, the court has no powers over the activities of the political parties. The Supreme Court has ruled on that severally.
That judgment has been given before now, but hasn't ever been respected.
That is why what we are calling for. It must be respected.
That's why I'm saying that we have given them enough opportunity to ride.
Okay, enough opportunities to ride on us. Well, I'm not sure that ADC is giving them that opportunity. That's why they are going ahead with the convention. Mr. Frank Ehiosun, how do you react to developments within the ADC struggling to get a space for the convention, and the fact that, well, they are also saying, Josh Amupiton, INEC chairman, you are not fit for purpose. You are not fit for that position. You have compromised a lot. I think this is the third time. The first one was, well, that he was part of the president's legal team in 2023. The second one is that he authored a certain document, supporting Christian genocide way back in time as a law professor. And again, his ex-handle, that he at some point supported the current president. How do you react to all this development? Briefly, if you can, in 2 minutes, because we are out of time.
Yeah, on the issue of ADC, it's unfortunate. I think that the blame goes round. In my opinion, from what I could access from information within the media space, I think the first body to take blame is ADC itself. Because from what I read in the papers and expert opinion from lawyers who have spoken on several platforms, I just wonder why, like the discussion said just now in the studio, there's a Supreme Court judgment that has already made put pay to the matter. What would it have taken them to go to the court, the Federal High Court, then when Gombe went to the court on the issue? Because from what I read in the dailies, it was just INEC that responded as one of the parties. They should have gone to that High Court, the Justice Gay White High Court, to say that Gombe doesn't have the wherewithal and the court is not supposed to intervene in the matter. Because not until 18th of December or thereabouts that the matter has already gained wings. That was when it seemed like ADC not tended to take the matter serious. And secondly, politicians should play by the rules. I'm not detailed about the rules that applies here. But if you want to join a party, peruse the constitution of that party and ensure that every step you take is in compliance with the process. Dot I's and cross T's. So that you don't come and blame anybody, whether ruling party or whoever, for coming to cause crisis when you could have, as in, saved the day by ensuring that you do the right thing from the outset. That's why I said the blame would have to go around. On the issue of INEC chairman, that he was involved in the president's legal team is not, for me, quite the issue. That he even had a Twitter account is not quite the issue. I think what is an issue is the fact that it appears that his actions from level of suspicion. And because he's a professor of law. So interpret status quo ante bellum from that standpoint. As a novice, for me, it sounds very strange. How much more when viewed from the standpoint of the lens of an expert?
All right then. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank Ehiosun. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and we still need to go to Oka and get a concluding thought from Dr. Dennis Ekemeze. Dr. Ekemeze, quickly, sir, how do you react to developments around the ADC? There are problems sourcing a venue, and the fact that they're asking the INEC chairman to vacate that position? Briefly, sir, in 1 minute, if you can.
Well, it's democracy in action. And I recall what Dr. Choba Okadibo taught us, that in the terrain of politics, you must be careful of the banana peels on the floor. And I think that is the situation, and that's how to analyze it. The issue of the INEC chairman should vacate his seat. He ought to know that his wife must be above suspicion. Has he lived over to it? That is the question. And then ADC, grappling with the court cases and this relationship is part of their party affairs. We pray that they grow over it.
We pray that they grow over it.
They should grow over it, like other parties, even APC. None of them is insulated from crisis and problems. And we wouldn't know by now, or say carefully, who sponsors or who is the fifth columnist in the sponsoring of those crises. I think that
anyway, these are developments within the politics. All right, there. Thank you very much, Dr. Prince, Dr. Dennis Ekemeze. We'll keep interrogating all of this development ahead of 2027 general election. Now, this is where we have to drop anchor on this conversation. I must say a very big thank you to you, gentlemen. We've been speaking with Prince Francis Chilaka, who joined us in our Lagos studio here. He's a public affairs analyst. We also had Mr. Elvis Ehimelehe, who is also public affairs analyst. And from our Benin station, we had Mr. Frank Ehioshun, author and public affairs analyst. From our Oka station, Dr. Dennis Ekemeze. Gentlemen, we appreciate your presence on VOP this morning. I hope that we can do this some other time. Now, on behalf of the backroom staff and my colleague here, Jane Ogoye, I am Chukwuma Okoro. We'll return at 10 o'clock to take you into newspaper headlines and inside stories. Please do join us then, because it promises to be quite interesting. Bye for now. See you on top of the hour of 10 o'clock.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at Vop Tv Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. Vop TV, Voice of the People Television.
Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us. To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector, from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more. Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Behind every broken deck lies a broken promise. Education shapes the nations. But who is asking the right questions? Introducing Edu Dialogue, the show that goes beyond the surface, exposes the cracks, the corruption, and the silence in Nigeria's education system. Edu Dialogue, Saturdays, 3 p.m. only on VOP TV. We break the biggest stories, from missing funds to policy failures. We ask the tough questions and demand real answers. Edu Dialogue, this Saturday, 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television.
I'm Sarah Nystrom from Sweden, aka Chief Omobawale, Communication Queen. Keep watching VOP TV.
Hi, I'm Samantha Jacobs, representing the States. Miami's in the house, and I want to make a shout out to VOP TV. I'm a humanitarian, and I'm also a rep in the film industry and the art industry. I help dreams come true, and I help you keep on that path. Shout out to VOP TV because you're helping people stay on their path too. Cheers.
All right, my name is John Odibo. Keep watching Voice of the People because it's a fantastic station to be with all the time. Thank you very much.
My name is Pastor Elvis Ciro, the convener of the Voice Achievers Award, and keep watching VOP. Yes, that is the channel for all the people. No color, no race. Thank you so much.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, this is Abbas Sunkan from the Netherlands. I am a designer and I'm here in Eco Hotel and Suits. Keep watching VOP, the voice of the people. Don't touch that dial.
When I first heard VOP, I thought they were talking about me because I'm a voice-over personality. But no, this is Voice of the People TV, and you are riveted forever because this is the place to be.
Yo guys, your boy Chela. Shout out to VOP TV. I love you guys.
Salut tout le monde, Suspect 95. Là, on est sur VOP TV. On passe un bon temps. J'espère que vous kiffez. On est au Afrima. On est ensemble. VOP TV.
Don't see me like a fool because I don't do giddy giddy giddy. VOP, you don't know Stoneware from Ghana representing live and living color. Yeah, Beam Nation President. Outside with it. Bless up.
Hello, this is Milo from Ivory Coast. Keep watch Voice of the People TV. Regardez la voix du peuple, la télévision de la voix du peuple. Que Dieu vous bénisse. À très bientôt. Love you so much.
Hi guys, what's up? This is Gaze Baba. I am watching VOP TV. Usually you be told to not touch the dial, but I tell you to touch the dial and increase the volume. You're like, keep it locked. It's Afro Gospel. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shego Aronzo. You're watching VOP. Don't change the dial.
My Joe, fine girl. My Joe, fine babe. Only are you, but on the Fuji Monsu. Yes, don't touch the dial. This is me, Dr. Adiwala Iba. Keep watching VOP TV.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
Are you ready for the extraordinary? Something big is happening on your screen. Introducing VOP TV. Now streaming on SLTV channel 264. From breaking news to captivating conversations, news analysis, giving you all sides to the story. We bring in-depth discussions on the issues that matter, from politics to sports, entertainment, and lifestyle. VOP TV on SLTV channel 264. Join us as we redefine what television means to you. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People Television. Let's feed you with all the juicy stories in the global entertainment space, bringing you the glitz and glamour as it is hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on VOP TV. Entertainment like never before.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy, and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
2564 is coming up on Barney 9, right?
The 2564 Atlantic Tower.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
This is Newspaper Review, and we're so glad to have you join us. I'm Jane Ogoye, and today it's a full house. We're so glad because all the gentlemen, the ones with the fire, are in the house today. Mr. Fanimo, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Mr. Elvis Eli, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Barrister Agono, thank you so much for joining us.
Barrister
Agomo, thank you for joining us.
We'll talk about that after this.
Please, we need to. Good morning, Mr. Akoro. Thank you for staying back.
Jen.
It's
Thanks.
always
Thanks
nice
for
to have
having
you
me.
on the other
side.
And from Benin, will be joined by Mr. Frank Ehiosho. Let's just dive in. On the front pages of the major newspapers today, we have a congratulatory message to the president over the commissioning of the headquarters of the Nigerian Revenue Service. That's what dominates the front pages. But there's a story I want us to talk about. Anxiety over opposition's future as ADC, PDP awaits Supreme Court's ruling. Let's start with politics. Mr. Dele, let's have your thoughts on that.
Let's get a context into just a preview.
Okay. Let's see.
Check the page.
But the judgment,
the
judgment have not been given.
Okay, so ADC convention holds amid suspense. Shadowy powerful figures behind Bala. Crisis deepens as Adamawa ADC faction suspends Atiku and Babache. SGF says don't take them serious. That's some context, right?
Yes, those are the writers. Now, a lot is happening, in the ADC. First of all, there have been, apart from their internal struggles, and there's the thing that the forces are from outside, feeling all those internal struggles. We hear about how a certain Bala Nafiu has said, well, I'm the authentic. There's another Obi Nadon Norman who says it is me. And we have INEC say both the Bala and the David Markley, we are not going to recognize it. But their major crisis now, the major issue is the fact that they are struggling to secure a venue for their convention. Their convention is slated. It should be underway today. It's already 10 o'clock.
They've got
delegates. Now they got a place yesterday, the Rainbow Event Center in Area 8, Abuja, But this morning, Bolaji Abdullahi, spokesperson of the party, said, well, that event center, Rainbow Event Center, is under pressure from the FCT minister to cancel that center.
The venue.
To cancel that venue. So they are grappling with a lot at this moment. And we also hear, like you read out, yesterday, it made it to the news that a certain faction in ADC, Adamawa State, has suspended former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Then, what was that his name again?
Turaki.
The Turaki of Adamawa. Turaki of Adamawa and all of that. So, well, ADC, that is the major story now. My concern is, why is it difficult for them to get a space, Okay, Waziri of Adamawa. My issue is that why is it difficult for them to get a space? ADC had a free convention, and as at that time, it was in Eagle Square. It was on a Friday, and they said, well, FCT workers, you can stay at home, because
it was a holiday.
They gave a holiday because for civil servants in Abuja, because at that time, about 32 governors were to assemble in FCT, and because of the retinue of security officers, and they had about 8,000 delegates, So Abuja was going to be a beehive, and they said, in their own wisdom, they said, stay away so that you don't get caught in the gridlock and all of that. PDP had their own at the stadium. So why is it difficult for the ADC to get a space? As at yesterday, Wike said, well, I didn't get any application, so there's no way I can approve Eagle Square since there was no application. They said, well, ADC said, we applied, and you refused.
And the letter was brought out.
And again, we hear that Eagle Square Stadium, no way. Now, they scrambled and got an event. Meanwhile, last week, Transcorp canceled because the original place they had was Transcorp. So the people in government make it obvious to, they make it obvious, look very obvious that, well, we don't want these people to stand as an opposition party. And it's quite disturbing because I don't know where we are headed. The way they are going, who would they blame if all of a sudden these minor conflicts spin out of control and Nigeria gets engulfed in a conflagration? Who are they going to blame?
They will look for somebody to blame. They must look for somebody. It's politics. Mr. Okoro, is it what you call politics?
No, this is not politics.
Oh,
this is not
because that's how they will put it.
This is suppression.
Because I confronted
as a matter of fact, this is tyranny.
I confronted somebody who said that if you don't know how to play the game, stay away. This is politics. And I asked him, come. In America, where you copy this presidential democracy, is that how they play it? In fact, for doing it alone, the institution in America will shut you down. And I gave an example with Richard Nixon. Just for eavesdropping in an opponent's conversation, the famous Watergate happened. We don't copy good things. We don't copy good things. It's only the bad thing that they'll give us example, like Kenya is buying fuel so high, but here we are buying it cheap. They don't bring things as if we are stupid in the head. Well, no, is it your fuel that we are buying cheap? Is it not Dangote? Is it your own? You see this APC, if you know how I distage them and their policy, in fact, it cannot be explained because PDP was here. I thank God that Nigerians experienced PDP. We experienced PDP. We didn't see this type of thing. It's too much now. Is that how they play the so-called strategy to make sure that the opposition does not? Is that strategy, Mr. Okoro? Please, is this strategy? Because at the end of the day, now, if they win, you will see how they be jubilating. We have taught them how to do politics. We know it very well. What do you know very well? You know infamy very well. You know evil very well. Is that strategy? This is not strategy. Let people call it what it is. I don't like this type of thing because it is destroying Nigeria. It is destroying Nigeria. And I don't know where it will end at the end of the day.
Jane, I think that headline the Guardian used, give me again. I love that Guardian headline.
Guardian's headline, right?
Yes. I love there's a word there I love. Guardian.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, your people.
It's not about my
anxiety over opposition.
Anxiety. That's future. Because if you look at it, Mr. Koro, the anxiety is like engulfing ADC.
I'm sorry, Elvis. I'm sorry. I'm not. It's gone beyond anxiety. It's now tension.
Because as at the time this one came, this headline was crafted.
Yes,
we're state of battling anxiety. But what they are facing this morning now is more of like tension. Especially when we are talking about the Rainbow Event Center. It's now also being like we cannot use it. You see, my concern there is even as they are battling this one now from the ruling party, they are also now coming in with their own. The problem they have now. Their internal one is even more of the one they should even find a way to think or how to settle. Look at what happened in Adamawa yesterday. If there is any state that that ADC should be having this kind of trouble, must be the Adamawa. And the first person to be mentioned is Atiku Abubakar.
No, but you should know where it is coming.
That are suspended. I mean, when I got that story,
if you push it forward, they will ask you, are you sure it is a APC that is behind it? There's somebody who asked that question now. Do you have evidence? But we know what is behind closed doors.
Whoever is behind it, ADC should try as much as possible. Nigerians are looking at
on the suspension of Atiku Abubakar.
Yes,
it will be difficult for sure, to say categorically that it is APC. I mean, you know why I say that? Because there's also power tussle within the ADC. I mean, it could be another camp within the APC, within the ADC.
Who is
say, well, let us take this man out and see if we can have a way. There's a possibility.
But why this time?
It could also be the APC. Now, why this time? That is the question.
That's the question I'm not comfortable with.
You see, I will take a different route from all of this. The question is, if somebody is intent of destroying you, you should be smart enough to outsmart that person for your own survival. And I will give an example of Natasha. Nobody saw it coming when the governor of Kogi State said, just at the eve of Natasha coming to a constituency, said there mustn't be convoy. We won't allow this, we won't allow that. But this one was ingenious enough to bring helicopter. Flew in and did whatever she wanted to do. For me, if somebody has said you are not going to be allowed to do certain things in certain places, it is not compulsory that the convention must hold in Abuja. The important thing is that the convention should hold. Take it to your stronghold. Back in they brought convention to Ibadan. So, if you are battling somebody and you feel that this person is strong, in some certain areas. You don't play on that turf. You play on the stuff where you can also find your way. Because we can't continue to have excuses. At the end of the day, it is just the way it is. For me, look at the issue of Adamawa. Adamawa was deliberately to create tension and demystify Atiku Abubakar.
Especially this time.
Exactly.
This time.
And it cannot be orchestrated beyond the party. They know that the only stumbling block for anybody who aspires to pick the ticket of this, the ADC is Atiku. And forever, everybody knows that without taking Atiku out of the equation, nobody can rescue. If it's dollar for dollar, if it's naira for naira, nobody can rescue that ticket from Atiku as presently constituted in ADC. So they also want to rock the boat and make sure that they demystify him. That's why they went to his word. And it is the word that can suspend.
That can suspend.
Does it mean that Atiku does not have a hold on his word?
No,
there was a time.
In this situation, you cannot completely
let me land on my thought.
Okay.
Hold on.
It's a free conversation, by the way. I can butt in at any time.
No, you cannot butt in.
No, I can't.
No, you can't.
As a matter of fact, I
said
can.
You can't.
No, then I can.
I've seen you tell people to hold on several times here that you are on. So you can. When I land
I can say that as a moderator.
No.
But here, I'm here in the capacity of an analyst, so I can butt in.
No.
If I feel strongly.
If you want it, that is the way. But the way it is allow me
Who
to
defines the way it is? Who defines the way it is?
All right, let's. I think we are being joined by Frank from our Benin studios. Let's have his take. Good morning, Frank. Are you there? Frank, can you hear us? Good morning. So we're not able to get across to Frank. Let's just bring the conversation back. Can we just have our final thoughts?
As I was saying, as I was saying.
Land on your thoughts.
As I was saying, when the deputy governor to Akeredolu was to be impeached, despite the fact that he was an underdog, he made sure that people from his constituency, he took charge of them. And Akeredolu couldn't get 2/3 of the House throughout. That was why he was not impeached. So Atiku should also understand that there could be some of these things. You need to anticipate. And in anticipating, you make sure that you bring your people to your fold. It means that something is wrong in his constituency that they could come up with this kind of thing at this time. That's my position.
Okay. Now, exactly my point of disagreement, I wanted to disagree on that because as a matter of fact, as a politician, you cannot have complete hold over your structure if someone is determined to cause problem for you. You go to a ward where you have about 500 people in that party. Now, somebody goes there to pick not somebody who is not one that is actually disgruntled, but a hungry person. And he says, get 10 people for me who want to cause trouble in this party. And there are probably people who have not seen 1 million naira in their entire lifetime. And you dump 10 million naira for them. Form a faction, suspend Atiku. How much hold can you have on that word? They suspended Obasanjo in his word. Didn't he have hold on his party? You understand?
Yeah.
You know, so but when Dele says Atiku should have a hold on his, if someone wants to cause trouble for you, like what I've just said, they'll just pick 5 or 10 people. Give them enough money to cause trouble for you.
Like Nafiu Bala is being sponsored today.
Yeah.
The man now goes in convoy.
It also boils down to when these leaders of that world were being picked, where was Atiku?
Because this is a faction now.
No, if Atiku allows people that, are hungry to become leaders.
No, we are not talking about, is it the leadership that expelled him? No. It's a faction.
Yes, the faction were able.
So what do you mean by faction?
The faction are working with the leadership. Because the people I saw yesterday are executive member of that ward that came out to say they have suspended him.
Okay. Somebody
as powerful as Atiku, in his own word, he should be able to.
Elvis, let me ask you, who suspended Ganduje?
Ganduje, it was the leadership of his ward.
No, it was a faction too. There's always a faction.
Cannot work without.
No, the moment the here used to say, see, if you want to cause problem in a political party, just call a meeting, slap one person, there's a fight, there's problem in that party. You have a local standard, a basis for defection. It's difficult to say that you can be in control of the entire structure. Somebody that wants to cause trouble for you will find a way to cause that trouble. And that is what article is saying now. That's my position.
Like Arabambi and this guy did in Labour Party.
No, Barrister, we are even going for, I'm talking about the ward level. At the ward level, you can get 2 or 3 people, stop them with money. They will start causing trouble for you. And another analogy that Dele made with the issue of Natasha, coming in with a copter into Kogi when they said, well, you can't come here with a convoy. You see, this, and he also cited the instance of Makinde that planned a convention in Ibadan. I do agree with him that if you have a stronghold, you should maintain that stronghold. But in this case, they had planned this convention well ahead of time. They have made logistics.
And they never thought that anybody could stop them.
So it would be difficult for them to all of a sudden say, okay, like which state would they go to now? Does ADC have any state?
Surprisingly, the states that surround Abuja are all APC.
All APC. So you go there, the governor doesn't give you. You go there, the governor doesn't give you approval. You go to Adamawa, where Atiku is having problem, they don't give you. You go to Kwara State, where Bola Abdullah. You go to Anambra State. Of course, if you go to Anambra State, Soludo that doesn't even want to see P2B, who chase them away. So the only thing, maybe I'm not thinking that these men are daft. They are politicians. They play in the top. They understand all of these things, so they will have put all of these things into consideration.
They never believe that a private event center will not be
this kind of threats.
They never thought
to revoke their license.
And Wike is there lying up and down that nobody
all right,
wrote the letter, this and that.
Let's move on. Let's touch on insecurity. Tinubu moves against terrorists after fresh military casualties. Commander, 6 soldiers killed. President meets the French general and service chiefs. Mr. Fanimo, you want to go? Want to have a shot at that?
Well, yes. I'm not really happy at all that they killed rednecks. See, for you to get to the position of a redneck in the military, it's a whole lot of responsibility. And it's also that you have the decision on life and death. That's what the redneck symbolizes. And for somebody, because once you are a redneck, you are a commander in operation. And this particular person, just like the general is a brigade commander superintending over many barracks. So, if you are taking out a colonel and a general, then it's total war. And I still can't even explain why the military has not gone bonkers. Because the shield around a colonel is entitled to at least 15 soldiers as security backup at any point in time. And they can take him out at that level. Then it's no longer a ragtag insurgent. These are carefully selected, trained, and well-funded militia. And it emboldens them every minute.
Yes.
That if I can take out a general, if I can take out a colonel, who is that soldier? Maybe a warrant officer or a sergeant. They see them as nothing. And for you to even come to the military base that is supposed to be fortified, then we are in for serious trouble. I won't be surprised if I wake up and somebody tells me that a government house had been sacked. Because that's the way it's going. My hometown, I was in my hometown at the weekend, and the report I got was that everybody now lives in fear in that place. A woman went to a poultry farm with her 2 daughters. They killed the woman, killed the daughter, abducted the second daughter.
The story you told.
Yes.
I thought it was in the north.
No, Akure.
Ondo State.
Yes.
Well, that's
the village in Akure.
That's very scary.
That's what we are
saying. And up till now, nobody has been able to trace these people.
Let's take this conversation.
And that's just one out of many.
Let's have Frank join us, and then we bring it back. Frank, good morning. Can you hear us now? Good morning, Frank. Can you hear us? Okay, I think there is, maybe you have to unmute your device, but I see that you're speaking, but I can't hear you. Can you say something? Okay, so we still have technical issues. Let's bring it back to the studio,
yeah.
And then we'll try again.
And then that Friday, there was a particular guy, though they said it's a Yahoo guy having issues with his rival group and all that. But that guy, in the presence of Amotekun, was when they killed that guy. And those guys walked away without any of them being arrested. This is the whole state capital. Where they killed that woman is just a farmstead that is not up to 10 kilometers to the main city center. There was a protest on Saturday morning. I ran into the protest and I asked questions. You see, we are no longer safe in this country. And I keep saying it. If we don't take those things and take decisive actions, we as ordinary citizens, I use the word ordinary without being derogatory, but we are not privileged to have security around us. Every Nigerian is a municipal.
Even the people that have security, is it not governors that are going to address their people with APC?
With APC. Mm-hmm. That's to tell you that they already.
So I don't really know. I don't really know.
The issue
it's
here,
baffling.
The issue here is that what they are doing now, this boldness they are having now, is like an adage in my place that says, when you kill the mother hen, you use hand to pack the chicks. You can imagine a colonel or even a brigadier general, the brigade commander, now killed. What do you now expect of the other soldiers?
Let me just interrupt you briefly. Do you see a mutiny happening soon? Because I'm thinking about the morale of the
soldiers.
That's
even where we are. That's even what we are.
Can a mutiny happen?
That's where we are. That's what we are afraid of now.
I've been saying it.
That's what we are afraid of now, because this killing, the military men are not happy about it. If they are able to tell Nigerians where this problem is actually coming from, and with this misbehavior of the politicians are not really seeing what we are seeing. Honestly,
they will not.
What they are saying now is that opposition must not survive. They are not talking about how Nigerians can survive. That's why I'm afraid.
Yeah. And like I've always said, if this thing you said now, since is it not since last month, I've been saying it that the way these military are being killed and slaughtered, these guys may get angry.
Yes.
Seriously. Because that is what causes problem in other climes where it has happened. They will really get angry, and of course, the rest will be history.
I hear that some of them have even shot their commanders. You know?
And
when they feel sabotaged.
Exactly.
And complicity.
Because that thing that happened in Benin Sheikh, where they said that the armored tank was temporarily immobilized in the heat of a battle. An armored tank, a getaway car for the brigadier general was immobilized. Is that a statement that should come from the military? Who immobilized it, and when did it now start working? You know, when they put out this way, they don't even think of the implication. Are you telling me that it was the enemy that they are facing that immobilized the armored tank that made it impossible for that brigadier general to get away from there?
You see, there are a lot of lies that
can you just imagine?
I read a statement concerning that Ben Sheikh attack, and
they said 3 days away they were giving information. 3 days.
Killed. Now he has some memos sent to the defense headquarters concerning some of the things he wants to be done within his
command. Of course, they will not allow him.
Within one.
Good God.
What happens to those?
So
this is not nonchalant attitude, and
this is not the first. The man that took over from Brotai. Remember how he died with a helicopter near Zaria? Yes. He was with the cream of his men. The man just died.
Yes.
There was an investigation. The man that did that investigation, Dan Ale Kefi, he has spoken In fact, they even put him in prison for 64 days under Buhari. Now the report is with Tinubu. Nothing is being done. He even mentioned names. That man mentioned, he said that there was one particular man that, in fact, everybody is afraid of him in government. That a man that government is afraid of, Mr. Okoro. The report is there. We treated it in our evening rush. So what kind of thing is this?
Barrister, I mean, from the legal perspective now, with 2027 on the radar, if this insecurity continues like this, can an election be stalled? I
don't think so. That's why I'm telling the opposition, sustain your protest.
Okay.
Don't give up. The opposition, thank God the NBA
but
is
can those elections hold in those hotbeds? Which
hotbed? I'm talking about the whole Nigeria.
Okay.
The whole Nigeria, because everybody is involved now. Okay. With what they are doing, that I've been warning APC. They should be very careful. This type of thing can snowball into something they cannot.
So if the elections don't hold, what is National Assembly doing to issue a proclamation and extend the life of this administration?
Some people will take advantage of it now. It should not come and happen again.
An interim government.
Yes,
who will institute that?
Somebody will do it.
Is it not a military that will?
Is it not somebody that is?
No. So gentlemen, let's be careful. Let's be careful what we push out here.
What we push out how? They are already pushing it out. Okoro, they are pushing out already on their. You see,
an interim government.
You don't want trouble, and you are calling for trouble. How does that add up? Am I the one pushing it? How can you make opposition?
What I mean by pushing out, saying that there could be an interim government.
What's wrong with that?
If the elections don't hold, what will happen is that the National Assembly will issue a proclamation extending the life of this administration.
They will not take it because it is you that caused the problem. How can you continue to
asking, that
election saying that the government of law now or sentiment,
so that the life of so that within that period
is the law.
Yes, so that within that period, an election will be conducted.
Listen, you cannot contest the election because you are
where is it in the constitution that you can
listen.
There is not anything wrong with what they are doing.
No, listen, you cannot conduct the election because you are the one that caused the problem. How can you be sustained in that office?
Barrister, what does the law, what does the Nigerian constitution, electoral law, what does it say in this regard? What would happen if this insecurity continues at this rate?
We may have an interim government that will not organize the proper election.
Mr. Gomo, who will institute that interim government?
Somebody
who is that somebody?
The National Assembly can make a proclamation.
The law doesn't say that. The law says that during an election period, in case there is crisis, that election...
There should be a proclamation.
By the National Assembly for the life of that administration to be extended for 6 months. And within those 6 months, you conduct elections.
Listen very well. The problem, the person that caused the problem,
who caused the problem?
Is it not the ruling party?
How
And the National Assembly?
Can you lay facts?
Can
if you are in the court of law now, can you lay facts?
I can. The evidence is there. The evidence is there.
Where is the evidence?
The National Assembly is in bed with APC.
Show us the evidence.
INEC is in bed with APC. The facts are there. So, whom are you going to extend their tenure?
Mr. Gomo, we are looking at a situation where there is a crisis, and the election cannot hold. And you said the National Assembly is in bed with the ruling party. Well, the ruling party has majority.
The majority is
good. So how can the same people now be allowed to conduct? Are you sure they will conduct?
Who will not allow them now?
Who will not allow? The people, the Nigerian people insist. After all, revolutions have happened all over the world.
Except now you are talking about. So that's why I say let's be careful what we push. We are not pushing anarchy and revolution. That is not why we are here.
That's not what we are here. But we are calling for it. We are calling for it.
This is a national television.
The National Assembly should sit up and stop what they are doing. This thing that Akpabio is doing, somebody requested for loan. Under 3 hours, you sign it. Under 3 hours,
okay,
you sign the loan.
Barrister, let's just stay on the issue. Let's move on. Let's talk Ogun politics. 2027, Abiodun Oshoba, Daniel Amosu endorsed Yayi's Ogun APC, endorsed Yayi Ogun as APC's gubernatorial candidate. Yeah. And I think this morning I saw Iyabo congratulating Yayi.
Okay, let's hear from Dele. Yayi is his friend.
Yayi is not my personal friend. He was a colleague in the Guardian.
Colleague together in the
Guardian. We worked together in the Guardian. Yes, was the account department.
Really?
You understand?
I don't think Ogun State people choose that man.
Let me tell you, there was no way
Why? By the way, why are you telling us Yayi is not your personal friend?
Chukuma, that is my only opinion.
Okay.
And you have to respect it.
I respect it. No, I know Yayi as his friend, but I like the fact that he qualified it, not a personal friend.
Yes.
Okay.
So I knew it was going to happen this way because you see, there are certain things when you see somebody aspiring for a position, you always have the serious candidate. You also have ran. You also have, I just want to be mentioned.
Okay. Waka pass.
Something like that. The local language.
Waka
So,
pass.
The only two people that I felt was going to have a serious contest was Akinlade that ran the other time, and Yayi. And when you look at the trajectory of Yayi, you know. Somebody mentioned it this morning that you need to have a war chest. To become a governor in any state of this in this country, you need minimum of 10 billion naira. Anybody can say it's not right, but that is the real idea. That is what is going on now. Now, as a governor, if you don't have this kind of funds, you are now going to dependent on the party and Godfather. Yayi has been very lucky right from Lagos State.
Yes, from the House of Assembly.
House of Assembly to House of Reps, from Senate to Senate. Now he's sitting atop the money in this country. Chairman Appropriation
Committee in the Senate.
In the Senate. In fact, he is the Jesus of the Senate. Without him, you cannot see God.
Your budget not go pass.
You understand? So he has the war chest, and he had planned more than 6, 7, 8 years ago. Even when he was representing Lagos West,
yes,
he was pushing for that particular region. And another advantage is in the 50 years of Ogun State existence, that senatorial district has not produced a governor. So the consensus was, look, fair is fair. If we must hold this state together, then we need to give Ogun West a chance. And it happens to be the strongest contender in Ogun State, in that particular senatorial district. So I met him about a month ago, and I saw that confidence he exuded.
Okay.
And I knew that he was going to clinch the ticket. And good enough for Ogun State, they went to consensus. So they are not going to spend money on primaries in Ogun State now for governorship. They will just concentrate on campaign. And that is it. Yayi is the governor in waiting in Ogun State.
But that brings us to another big question.
Yeah.
This consensus we are seeing, that we have just seen in Ogun State, how is it going to play out in some other states where we have influx of other politicians from other parties now come to join APC?
They'll show themselves.
That's going to be
one way or the other.
You see, my own concern here is that why are we walking the same wrong route, expecting something to change? This man has been appropriating funds for the executive, going by his position in the National Assembly, true or false. All this money that the executive collects, right, left, and center, without no debate, no nothing, he's at the head of it. And so, when somebody visited Ogun State the other time, said they want to commission a project, it cannot be uncollected with what happened on Monday. That was yesterday. That was where this decision was taken. And I'm sure it's going to go around the whole Southwest, choosing somebody because he's loyal to me. Is there any other reason?
And that's what they call consensus.
Are you serious?
And that brought us deliberately brought in by INEC.
No,
as one of
that
the
is
of primaries.
Now, if you brought somebody who's only loyal to you, what happens to the larger polity that you are supposed to preside over? Tell me, what happens to it? You can see the same trajectory. Somebody choosing somebody on consensus. because you are loyal, because you are this. What happened to the greater?
I told a story here sometime. I told a story here sometime. I was in an event, you know, when Babatunde Raji Fashola was the governor of Lagos State. And that time, you know, there were momos here and there in the APC. You know, people, I mean, the president then, national leader, was the one choosing people. And so Raji Fashola was very bold that day. He spoke out and he said, well, Mr. President, Mr. National Leader, sir, people are asking for internal democracy. Because I told you that time he wanted Shashure to succeed him. His Attorney General, fine lawyer, senior advocate to succeed him. But the president didn't want all of that. The president at that time wanted Aki Wumi Ambode, you know. And so after all the ramblings, I call rambling by Raji Fashola, you know what the president said? If there was internal democracy in this party, you will not be governor.
Did you stand any chance?
Did you stand any chance of becoming a governor?
Now, my question
is, you see, either we like it or not, you can't bring your enemy to come and contest in an election. It is somebody that is loyal to you, you will pick.
Listen,
that will transform what agenda you have.
Look, I don't agree with that because it has brought problem. It has never worked, especially in Lagos State. It has
it's not about. We are talking about Ogun State now.
No, I said especially.
When you become president, choose your enemies.
Especially in Lagos State. What's his name?
Yes.
Jonathan chose a Jaga to be his INEC chairman. Is that not true? And he gave him a free hand to operate. I don't know why we don't copy good things to make Nigeria grow. How can we continue like this?
Jega turned around.
It doesn't matter. Yes, he had left. And Nigerians are regretting it. Yes,
he wanted his person.
It doesn't matter.
President.
It doesn't matter. At least allow the people
talking about.
So apparently that was a mistake.
Allow the people to choose and make their mistake.
He didn't do Jonathan meeting.
Mr. Okoro, the only way to allow Nigeria to grow, allow the people to choose their own person and make their mistake.
Who are the people?
Allow the people.
Ogun State leader said they wanted somebody. Who are you to say
Lagos,
no?
In Lagos, have anybody been? Lagos
when you get to Imo, where you come from?
Have Lagos choosing their governor? Mr. Okoro, have Lagos choosing their governor? Just tell me. And look at what the results. Look at the results now.
Mr. Governor, let me tell you, if the people feel strongly that the person they brought they won.
They should queue up with another party. And then
that's the good thing about it.
They have never been allowed to choose their own.
If the person APC brings is not the popular choice of the people,
then vote him out.
They will not allow you to vote him out. Have anybody they appointed be voted out in Lagos? Have anybody they appointed and anointed been voted out in Lagos?
Tell me now.
All right, we are running out of time. We are running out of time. So let's quickly go through other stories. ADC reps caucus Adebayo Shehu demand Amupiton's removal and prosecution.
APC caucus.
ADC reps.
How many of them?
Are you asking the same question?
The number, they have the right to speak, even if the number is not.
No, they say it's a caucus.
They say it's a caucus.
Caucus can be 5, can be 3.
I don't think they have up to 5.
These caucus sound like occult to me. Occult. Caucus, every time caucus. Who are the caucus? Did they have 2 heads?
No, caucus is a
an occult group. As far as I'm concerned.
So sometimes when we try to troll our democracy, you discover that even the Democratic Party, even the Republicans, they have the caucuses, that meet, at intervals to review the progress made by the party, at different levels of governance. So these are not strange things.
They are not strange things. Okay.
But is that what you do here?
They would always have their say.
Yeah.
But is another ball game to have their way.
12 years after, Chibok parents demand global action as 87 girls remain missing.
Those are that turn to grandma.
When they are almost becoming grandma.
They should even be happy that they are alive. At least the terrorists are having their... so that is Nigeria for you.
All right, let's touch on business a bit. Dangote plans to offer shares on multiple African exchanges for 650,000, what's this, BDP refinery.
Barrel per day refinery.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it has to do is to start with Nigeria here. At some point, he was the chairman of Was it SEC or NSC? Which of them? Either of those things. He was
Stock
one.
Exchange, NSC.
So, stock exchange, Nigerian Stock Exchange. So if he wants to offer shares, by the way, I understand that Nigerian government has 7% shares. Is it paid up?
7.2.
7.2.
The initial agreement was 26%. But Buhari paid up to 7.2.
Up to 7.2%. And so if he wants to go public, well, it's a welcome thing. But you know the thing about going public, sometimes when they go public, it's just that they want to use it to mop up funds.
Of course.
To reinvest.
He wants to do expansion.
He wants to do expansion into other African countries.
And even he wants to expand this
in Nigeria. In Nigeria.
1.4
million
capacity.
Capacity, you know.
You will need funds to do that.
You will need funds to do that. So I think it's a good thing.
For me, I will advise Dangote not to go into that.
Why?
There is no need. His refinery is about the biggest in the whole world today. Why can't he manage it and then build it, solidify the gains he has made, instead of all this expansion? He is the biggest in the whole world today.
This biggest in the whole world. I've been hearing that. I think I need to.
It's not that. No, it's not in dispute now. It's not. Somebody would have challenged it.
A businessman would always want to expand his business. It is his prerogative to decide what he wants to do with his business. This is not government-owned business.
What we are saying here is that
NNLG had been expanding because there is more private equity
participation.
So
what I'm saying
is knowing this kind of debate here.
Knowing the environment,
opportunity to also buy and have a say in it.
Exactly.
Listen,
it's also good business for those who buy shares. Because it's an ongoing concern that would also improve by the day. So if I buy a share of 1 billion naira today in Dangote, at the end of the financial year, it declares another 1 share per the one I have.
That's some good money.
That's good money. So
I am still insisting, going by the environment we are and what is going on, and the way the government in power is relating with Dangote, he should consolidate on what he has on ground until the climate is clear. Don't go on this expansion.
What do you mean by government in power?
Didn't you see? Hold on. Didn't you see?
We're almost out of time. There's a story. Barrister, sorry, we're almost out of time. Let's take this last story.
If we don't understand business.
Did you not see what happened? The man was so frustrated that he said anybody can come.
Let's take this last story before we go.
The government official that was telling you that.
Barrister,
that government official has been suspended.
Oh really? But they said it.
Let's take this story because we're almost out of time. Yeah, Desiani denies bribery claims, tells London courts, I did not abuse my office.
Good.
Let her continue.
I mean, you should prove
let her defend.
No, it's more like the judge asking you guilty or not.
Yeah.
And you said not.
So that's the right
because he said every of
so it's not for the prosecution. To press.
He
said every of her flamboyant lifestyle was sponsored by NNPC.
Oh.
Which was under her ministry.
Of course.
So
was sponsored by her.
By the NNPC.
No, that is implication.
In fact, going by what we have today, Desiani is a saint. Going by what we have today, Desiani is a saint. Let her continue on that trajectory. They told you have 2,000 jewelries, and people believe it. 2,000 jewelries, Okoro. Do you know that these will come in pairs? That means 1 pair 1, 2 pair 2. Then you have 2,000 of them. There are ones you cannot wear throughout her lifetime.
Imelda Marcus had that.
Shoes now. Shoes. That one is shoes. So when they throw this propaganda, you don't buy. You don't.
You wear like 3 at the same time.
What are you?
But you can only wear one shoe.
Can you just what I'm saying?
So,
the jewelries.
Do you know how many earpins she has?
What are you telling me?
That she can wear like 3.
She can pay at once. No, you can wear 3 at once on one
because
ear.
If you have 3 holes or 4 holes in your ears,
who is doing that one? Have you ever seen her like that? Have you ever seen her like that?
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
It's not possible now. They don't do propaganda to
we're out of time. We're out of time, but it was really a pleasure having you guys.
Jenny, please.
We're out of time.
210 trillion is missing. Why are they not acting investigating it, Okoro? 200. The design is still 210 trillion. Let's go from there.
Okay, we'll talk about this tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us. Mr. Elvis Eli, thank you for joining us. Mr. Dele, thank you. Frank, unfortunately, we were not able to get through to you. And Mr. Okoro, I know you're making a comeback.
I'm making a comeback at 6 o'clock.
About?
I'll be joined by Barrister Asim Adams, and we'll talk about the developing stories around the ADC and other interesting political stories in the polity. Join us there, and it promises to be quite interesting.
All right. I'm Jane Ogoye. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tomorrow, VOP This Morning returns at 8 a.m. Bye.
In a world where power shifts with every headline.
In a nation full of questions.
In a world filled with noise, the truth needs a voice.
The policies that shapes our world and the economy that determines our future.
Every hour, every day, the grapevine keeps buzzing. And together, we are committed to telling the stories that shape our world because your voice is our focus.
Don't forget, our voice matters the most. Let us come together and share our concerns.
In a world where power shifts with every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not spin. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at Vop Tv Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264, VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
When you say, make Nigeria no happen to you, me self go say, make you no happen to Nigeria.
You dey bypass your light meter. You dey jump queue.
Yet, you dey wait make Nigeria change for you. My brother, my sister, you self change.
Oh yeah, see that Naija pikin wey pack the thing wey block gutter wey dey cause flood.
Abba, Naija pikin. Make we dey care for our environment.
Gen Z is no one work. Now quick cash them they find.
Just like that, boys don't turn Pablo. And girls?
Hablets.
Wetin dey happen?
We dey argue online, spread fake news with our full chest, divide ourselves on top religion, tribe, and politics matter.
But we go dey shout, no unity for Naija.
My brother, my sister, unity begins with you.
Someone japa, nobody wants stay. But who go fix Naija if no be you?
Omo, you go stay o.
Naija dey wait for us same way we dey wait for Naija. That's why National Orientation Agency don bring this better ogbonge plan wey go change the game. That na 7 for 7 agenda. 7 promises from leaders and 7 citizen codes.
equality, democracy, entrepreneurship, employment, peace and security, inclusivity, justice, meritocracy. Now the Niger promises.
But without our own discipline, duty of care and tolerance, respect and true leadership, transparency we all need, environmental awareness, resilience in no go walk.
Seven promises, them don't talk am. Seven codes, now we go do am more. No they wait, no they look face. Join body, make we run the race. Now you and me, now you and me, now you and me, go fix our Niger. Leave bribery, wash your hands. Come out from my ways.
Talk true when you see security concern now all of us.
No they complain about Niger, complaining, no they change our mode. If you be true Nigerian, if you be Ogbonge Naija. If we want better tomorrow, now we go make them work today.
Seven promises, them don't talk am. Seven codes, now we go do am more. No they wait, no they look face. Join body, make we run the race. Now you and me, now you and me, now you and me, go fix our Niger. Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo and Rivers. Oh, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo and Rivers. Oh, seven promises, them don't talk am. Seven codes, now we go do am more. No they wait, no they look face. Join body, make we run the race. Now you and me, now you and me, now you and me, go fix our Niger.
If we be true Nigerians, we go rise hand in hand, uphold the 7 to 7 agenda for Niger, our home, our pride, and our strength.
Powered by National Orientation Agency.
Welcome to the locker room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Ampelon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu and Mayowa, as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening in the football. Don't just watch football, live it with us. Catch us on the locker room and Voice of the People television at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And like I always say, if not 20 minutes off, please discuss.
The red carpets, awards, the razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight on Voice of the People television. Let's feed you with all the juicy stories in the global entertainment space, bringing you the glitz and glamour as they hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on Vop TV. Entertainment like never before. The razzmatazz, music, fashion, interviews, and more. Spotlight On Voice of the People Television, let's feed you with all the juicy stories in the global entertainment space, bringing you the glitz and glamour as they hot. Stay tuned to Spotlight, 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Spotlight on Vop TV. Entertainment like never before.
In a world where power shifts its every headlines, news breaks and events happens, we bring you unbiased and explicit information on politics, economy, and state of the nation. We break down the chaos. Facts, not fluff. Truth, not speed. We discuss not just politics, but a glimpse into the future. Voice of the People Television. Now you have more than a voice.
Well, I just remembered, secondary school days when we talk about animals, primates, and talk about other kinds of even insects, and while we're having the conversations, and so many things were just popping into my head. I mean, I was looking at how the Champions League is also going to turn out this evening, and lots of drama in between, and I was just in the midst of all of this, I was looking at the Super Eagles setup also for how they prepare for the Unity Cup and what's going to actually be expected of them, which kind of players are we expected to see. And in the midst of this, there's also a very big news coming from the Championship, as of course Coventry, as you all know, are already a Premier League side for next season as they gain promotion, and our own Frank Onyeka will also be back in the Premier League playing top flight football again. All this and more will be uncovering in today's edition of the Sport Republic Show. I'm Ikechukwu Ago. And definitely, like we always do it right here, whenever it is, the Sport Republic Show, we'll definitely take you across all the sporting stories, not just football. And definitely we'll be starting from, our home front, what is going to happen, what's happening right there, in the Super Eagles camp. And of course, what's happening, in the Glass House, football administration generally, because a lot of talk has been, coming out, and people are actually calling from the head of Eric Shaw. And one man in the middle of all of this controversy is, the one and only primate who usually like to, offer huge controversial conversations. I mean, most times he comes up, talk about, anything that is more political, administrative, and I don't know why he always does that, but again, this time around, he's not just firing salvo at any politicians in Nigeria, any of the politicians in Nigeria. Right now, he's actually, focusing on Nigerian football and telling us exactly what is going to actually make the football better. And his very first pick is the coach of the Super Eagles, Eric Shaw. As this man, Elijah Ayodele, who is also known as the primate of his church, has called on the Nigerian Football Federation to dismiss Eric Shaw as head coach of the Super Eagles, despite terms not yet finalized. Of course, the recent third place finish, the Super Eagles actually went to Morocco to play that very important Nations Cup, and we were all expecting them to actually win. And the Super Eagles gave a very, very interesting, outcome in that particular one. Even though the Super Eagles end up playing, in the third place final, where the Super Eagles got the bronze, a lot of persons actually look at this particular tournament and see it as a better one compared to the one we actually finished second in Cote d'Ivoire in terms of display. But Eric Shaw, is actually on the news of this man and talking about Primate Ayodele, who is actually talking about him being removed from the helm of affairs. Speaking in widely circulated video, Ayodele criticized Shaw's tactical and technical approach, stating that the team will struggle to progress under his leadership. He warned that the Super Eagles risk stagnation if changes are not made. Shaw, who still has a year remaining on his contract, has reportedly been in talks with the Federation over an extension, but negotiations have stalled due to agreement over salary. Of course, still talking about the man, in question, Primate Ayodele, is also not just stopping at, the issue concerning the Super Eagles coach. It's also focusing his attention on the administration of the Glass House, as he's backing, the embattled Gosal to actually continue as, the NFF president. And Promotional has also expressed, that, this is the very best man to actually handle the job. He's talking about none other than Ibrahim Musa Gusau as the president of Nigerian Football Federation. Despite recent setback in Nigerian football, remarks come amid tension growing ahead of Federation's election, with Gusau seeking another term in office. The call for continuity follows criticism of the Federation's performance, including the Super Eagles failing to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and of course the Under-17 team also missing out on a consecutive event. Nigeria has historically been a dominant force in youth football tournament, particularly in the 17 level since the competition inception in 1985. Nigeria is arguably the most decorated side at the Under-17 level. We failed to qualify back-to-back events, and of course the Super Eagles also failed to qualify back-to-back FIFA World Cup. And this man Primate is actually saying the Super Eagles needs to actually, the best man that will continue to run Nigeria football is Ibrahim Musa Gusau. I don't know, maybe that's exactly why he's the primate of his church, and it's going to actually, continue to actually share this sort of controversy. But people who run, football in this country should really sit down and start asking themselves questions, because Ahmad Jupinik, a lot of persons talk about how, controversial his tenure was. But if you place Ahmad Jupinik and Gusau side by side in terms of, what they actually deliver for Super Eagles, there's no bearing. Ahmad Jupinik lost, his second term on the basis of the fact that Super Eagles failed to qualify for the World Cup. And of course, Prime Minister Adele is also talking about, this man continuing at the end of affairs, knowing that he has also failed to qualify the Super Eagles, to the World Cup in 2026. But of course, this conversation or these stories is not just going to be me, talking about it, because I'll definitely be joined, by a sport analyst. And of course, Akwelumi, good morning and welcome to Sport Republic. All right, so definitely when Pelumi eventually joins us, definitely bring him up to speed. And of course, away from the conversation around Prime Minister Adele, and now let's go straight to the Unity Cup that we expect the Super Eagles to actually give a good showing, not just on the field, but also to also see players who will be ready to actually take over. When some of our players actually eventually leave the spotlight. Of course, the Super Eagles are set to compete in the season's ending Unity Cup in London next month, where they will defend their title. Nigeria will face Zimbabwe in the semi-finals, with the winner advancing to play either Jamaica or India in the final. Head coach Eric Chell is expected to use the tournament to assess new and fringe players, leaving out several regular starters. Nathan Teller is in the line for a return after a year away, while Philip Otele is also set to feature. The new prospects under consideration include Zadok Johanna and Anthony Dennis, as Shell looks to evaluate emerging talent. This is one of the very bright side of the Unity Cup tournament, because every single time the Unity Cup is on the offering, one thing is certain: you're bound to actually see players who will definitely move into the Super Eagles national team ever since Eric Chell got on board. And one of those is one player who will continue to celebrate. A very young man, 21 years, Benjamin Frederick. It's also shown that with this sort of tournament you can actually get the very best of luck to actually debutize or take over the likes of the old guys in the Super Eagles. Also, we're not forgetting, Igor Ogbu also is one of those players who discovered in that tournament. So let's see the players that will be discovered. Yes, Nathan Teller is a player who has really not had it fair for the Super Eagles because of injuries. And of course, these things have actually hampered his playing time. The man who has done so well for his club side, but of course, injury. But let's hope that this is going to be the time where he's eventually going to actually click into the Super Eagles and then, command, even if he cannot pin down the jersey, he's going to give a really good fight and, of course, help promote the health of the team, in its overall outlook. And that's exactly what a lot of Nigerians are actually hoping to actually see from this particular Unity Cup. But then again, still talking about the Super Eagles, and then we'll move on straight to France, where former Super Eagles head coach Gernot Rohr has praised Moses Simon for achieving a historic milestone in France top flight. The Paris FC midfield recently registered 36 goals and 41 assists in 203 Ligue 1 appearances, becoming the first Nigerian to reach such number in the league. Simon, who has spent 6 seasons in France with Nantes and now Paris, has maintained consistent performances throughout his stay. Rohr highlighted the winger's importance to his team, noting his influence on both Nantes and newly promoted Paris FC, and describes his longevity and impact in Ligue 1 as uncommon for Nigerian players. What these guys actually do, I think in the history of French football, if you look at Nigerians that actually ply their trade in that particular country, two players will always stand out for me. Okay, three players, because of the Prince of Monaco is arguably the biggest amongst all of them. And then we look at Vincent Nyama, who broke, record in France. I mean, he was in France. He also broke record even in Europe at the time where he was, doing so well for his club in Lille. And now we are actually having, another person in person of, Moses Simon. These three guys have actually egged their name in gold. France football, the Legon would definitely not forget them. And this is also very beautiful to actually see. Moses Simon is one of those players who, you look at him and you say, okay, he's one of those players with very little PR, around him, but he does his business on the pitch, and he's also been doing it in the last couple of years. And it's actually a very good thing to actually see. Milestone is one thing players will always celebrate, because the beautiful thing about milestone is that even after you're done playing, it continues to live with you every and wherever it is you go to. So kudos to Moses Simon. This is going to be an inspiration, because now any Nigerian player who is actually playing in France will definitely look at that record and say, okay, this is something to actually push. This is something to actually pursue. I want to actually break this record. And that's exactly, one thing that will definitely make you, a better player. Again, there's something also about the milestone. When milestones like this, happens, people tend to actually look, inwards and look at that country and say, okay, maybe there's some level of prospect. And, let's see if we can actually, spot younger talent. Let's see if we can actually spot academic talent who can actually really groom early, and then let's, bring them, into the European shores. And, since Nigerian football, as it were, is actually not really, ready to actually develop our own homegrown talent. So let's see if we can actually bring them over and then see, how many of these records they can actually break. But once again, I mean, for me, I like Moses Simon a lot. It's one of those players who I really, respect his aura in the national team. He's very calm. He does his business. He does his thing, very easy, and then deliver the goods when it matters the most. Once again, congratulations on your new milestone. And away from that, let's go straight to, the man who's actually, I call him the nomad, right? This man has been touring across Europe, doing his business just the same way he usually, walks himself on the field. He walks every part, he cuts every part of the grass on the field. You see him from one end of the field to another, and that's exactly how he's been moving from one, city and one country to another. Talking about none other than, the Coventry City man, Frank Onyeka, who is definitely hear report that he's signed a permanent deal with the club following their promotion to the Premier League side. Of course, the Nigerian international midfield joined the club on loan from Brentford and played a key role in their successful promotion push, featuring 11 matches and boosting the team's midfield stability. The head coach, Frank Lampard, has approved the move, with the players expected to sign a 4-year contract once personal terms are finalized. This is exactly what they say the result of hard work is. They always say, the result of hard work is more work. But of course, aside the fact that it comes with more work, it comes with, more money. And of course, it also comes with, people giving you what you duly deserve, which is, what you call respect. And of course, I love the fact for him. This guy actually, left Brentford. I mean, he went to Germany in search of, playing time. And then from Germany, he moved back to, championship. A lot of persons were questioning his move. I mean, you did so well in, back-to-back African Cup of Nations. What are you exactly going to Coventry to do? I mean, this is actually way below your standard as a player. But actually, one thing he actually saw, he bought in the vision of, his namesake in person of Frank Lampard, who said, hey man, you can actually come here and we'll have, huge project. Look at the table, we'll have, with your presence, we'll have a very good chance of making it back to the Premier League. That's exactly what you want to be. I mean, how many games is it going to cost you to actually, go back to the Premier League, which you actually really belong, top flight football, where, players like yourself will always, show their quality every single time. So, I mean, he bought into the project and then he jumped on it, and here we are today. Frank Onyeka is back in the Premier League. It's also a very beautiful one. I mean, barring personal terms, which I want to believe that at this stage of the agreement, if Frank Lampard has actually endorsed it, it means that he must have had words and conversation with Frank Onyeka if he wants to stay. And of course, if Frank Onyeka wants to stay, then definitely the move as we have it is almost as good as done. So definitely, let's get to see what happens in coming days, where the personal term will be dotted, and then we'll have Frank Onyeka permanently a Coventry City player, and at the end of the day, we see him again in the Premier League doing his business as usual. So of course, let's try Pelumi again if he's back with us. Pelumi, are you there? Hello, Pelumi, can you hear me? All right. So while we still try to connect with Pelumi, let's still talk about football. And of course, we'll talk about this time around a Nigerian player is actually talking, or you want to say Nigerian goalkeeper in the person of Stanley Nwabali. But we're still talking about African football. And Stanley Nwabali had, a very, very interesting interview on radio, and of course, it was a huge expose where he actually talked about the reasons behind poor quality in West African football. He actually blasted a lot of countries, and he talked about how people are actually toying with the leagues across West Africa. He made so many will I call it allegation, but more like it's not even an allegation, because from what we can see, we know that these leagues across West Africa seems to be very, very underdeveloped. As he was talking about West African leagues, and of course structural weakness. And the Super Eagles goalkeeper compares WAFU leagues to South Africa and Morocco. Nwabali says the players leave West Africa due to poor pay and facility. Sheffield United star highlights lack of sponsorship in local leagues. And of course, the Nigerian goalkeeper calls for improved structure in African football. Now, whenever it is we talk about African football, and we also talk about how how terrible these things have become a norm in this part of the world. One thing we will not always take away is the fact that Nigeria at the center of it. I want to believe strongly that if the Nigerian Football League is as developed as what we see, in North Africa, particularly maybe Egypt, Morocco, and then South Africa, leagues around that particular sphere will definitely, pick a notch. And now ask me the question, right? We see that Nigerian players leave as Nigeria to countries that is as far as Tanzania. Now, place on Tanzania side by side Nigeria in terms of quality. You know that, Nigeria is way bigger than Tanzania, even if you look at the rankings. You look at the quality that will turn up in our league, you know that we've got huge quality. But why would Nigerian players leave Nigeria and then go to play league football in Tanzania? One thing is certain, it's about how the structure is well designed. Now, Tanzania is very much not even in South Africa. It is somewhere in East Africa. And if East Africans can actually find a way to actually create a structured league, even with the fact that they have short-term talents, I mean, it says a lot about how, we have actually been able to actually conduct ourselves. And if Nigeria can get it right, I also believe that a country like Ghana, another country within the West African coast, will definitely do the same and then, elevate their football. One thing that is certain, now, if you look at, football tournaments across, national football tournaments from under 17 to under 20, even the national team, you see that West Africa is a powerhouse in Africa. But when it comes to Champions League in Africa, you see that West African teams are usually weak. But in the 80s and the 90s, names that we hear, even in the early 2000s, we continue to hear names like the People's Elephant, the Accra of Oaks, the ASEC Mimosa. These guys actually were the mainstay in apart from the fact that you always have the likes of Al Ahly and Zamalek from that part of North Africa. These guys were the mainstay in African football at the time. But what happened? What happened to these big names, the ASEC Mimosa and co? Something really happened, and what really is the problem with them at this point is the fact that a good number of them are actually struggling because there's poor infrastructure, terrible welfare packages, and of course the country itself, the economy of the country has actually plummeted compared to what it was like in the 70s, in the 80s, and of course even in the 90s and even in the early 2000s. And that says a lot about. I recall that there was a there was an article that I stumbled on about how ASEC Mimosa was actually setting up an academy to actually, I think it was in somewhere around 2010 or thereabout, where I was hoping that, okay, we're going to actually start seeing, beautiful quality of talents come out from Cote d'Ivoire. And of course, we also see that their league will, overall develop. But what happened to it? I mean, a few years after, the Ivorians actually, was almost, Ivory Coast as a country, I beg your pardon, was almost turned into half because a lot of countries, a lot of warring faction, the country was also, tilting towards civil war. And these are the things that, if you look at you begin to ask yourself, what exactly is wrong with West Africa? And this is exactly one of the things that Stanley Nwabali is lamenting. Because a goalkeeper like Stanley Nwabali, right, at this level, at the peak of his career, is very much like, Vincent Nyama at the time. Vincent Nyama was actually at the apex of football in Africa, right? If Vincent Nyama was very much doing well with Enyimba, but can Stanley Nwabali come back to Enyimba at this point? No, because the level of Enyimba at the time where Vincent Nyama was doing business is actually different from what Enyimba is at this point. And it calls for question. So this is, again, going back to, the Elegbele board of the Nigerian Professional Football League to actually step up and then ensure that we have a proper league where top players can actually come in and then players are getting their money as at when due. Because I recall that there was actually also a story of Nigerian players of Enugu Rangers at a point. I think it was in 2013 or thereabouts when these guys were actually seen on the streets protesting. Some of them drinking drinking pure water and eating up on the road. And it tells you a lot about how we've actually disregard our league. And when you don't have this top quality, you don't expect the investors to come in. And of course, we have the issue with quality of players not wanting to stay because of pay. We also have the issue with security. It's a lot to actually unpack at this point. But I just hope that in the end we find a way to actually salvage our league and then let the best players in the league come up and then deliver the goods. But away from all the old drama around the Nigerian Professional Football League and everything that we've actually seen, let's go straight to what happened last night in the English Premier League. But before we jump straight right there to what happened right there at the Old Trafford last night, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the show continues.
Yes, obviously everybody knows the game is beautiful and that's why I love sports. My name is Kizzy K. You're welcome to my republic. But remember, there can never be a transfer without a window. Just like there can never be a deep thinking without a Pep Guardiola in football. You can't say tennis without talking about Djokovic. So why not give me attention on the show so I can run your race on the TV like Lewis Hamilton Formula 1 star. Don't forget, when God have mercy on you, you can achieve your goals like Cristiano Ronaldo. I am a proud Nigerian, and right here, we talk NFF. For every sports update, commentaries, live interviews on the game, we got you on this, because right here at Voice of the People TV, the Sports Public Show has got everything just for you to be part of it. I love the beautiful game, and that's why Kizzy K loves sports.
Welcome to the locker room, the home of football talk that matters. I am Jerry Arpillon. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Nigerian time, as we share the hot takes and hot debates in the exciting world of football. And joining me are the usual suspects, Ikechukwu and Mayowa, as we break down all the hot takes and everything that's happening